Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had a best friend like you, part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗵𝗃 from Wattpad. So let's start the video. I was swinging on the school swings when I heard someone crying. I looked up and saw a boy with dark green hair sitting on the ground near a tree. I got off the swings and ran to him to see if he was all right. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked as I sat in front of him. He slowly looked up at me and I noticed the small scratches and burns on his face along with the tears that were falling from his big green eyes. I gasped and grabbed his hand, quickly pulling him up to his feet and walking into the school to the nurse's office. After the nurse cured him and put some bandages here and there, we went to grab our school bags because it was time to go home. As I and the green-haired boy waited for our parents to pick us up, I decided to introduce myself and become friends with him. "Hi. My name is 𝗓𝗏𝗏. What's yours?" I said to him. "My name is Midoriya Izuku. Thank you for helping me," he replied back. He sounded a little shy, so I smiled and held out my hand for him to shake it and said, "Wanna be friends?" He gave me a little smile and he shook my hand. "Yes, sure." And that was the day. Izuku and I became friends. Skip your 15 now. "Izuku, slow down." I yelled at my best friend who was running in front of me. "But because there's a villain at the train stations, Tetsuin Station, and he wants to go see it get defeated by the pro heroes. He's a huge hero fanboy and he loves seeing the pros fight the villains because then he gets to take notes in his notebook. He wants to become a hero, but unfortunately, when he was little, 5 years old, the doctors declared him quirkless. He was devastated. I heard him crying from my house every night. Let's say you used to live in the apartment next to his until you moved to a single-floor house 3 minutes away from the apartment he lives in, but after I told him that I was also declared quirkless as well, we made a promise that we would become the greatest heroes with a quirk or without one. Until this day we still keep that promise and we both work really hard to accomplish it. Hurry up, slowpoke." Izuku yelled out, slowing down to grab my hand and drag me. "I swear this guy will kill me one day." Once we got there, we saw a huge villain on top of the train station and a huge crowd watching as the villain began to rampage. Izuku began to drag me to the front so that we could get a better view. Pro heroes began to come and everyone began to cheer. I was kinda hoping that All Might would come, but he didn't. I then remembered that he only appears when the villain is too tough for lower rank pros to defeat. Right, I forgot to mention, just like Izuku, I'm also a big fan of All Might. Not as big of a fan as Izuku is, but still a fan. After MD Lady arrived and defeated the villain, Izuku began to take notes of her quirk and he began to mumble some stuff I couldn't make out. I giggled at this because I find it really cute. Yeah, I also forgot to mention that I have a huge crush on my best friend. I've been liking him since we were kids and he saved me from this kid who bullies us a lot. That kid's name was 𝗓𝗏𝗏, but Izuku calls him Kaken because they used to be childhood friends, until Bakugo got his quirk and turned into a major jerk. Skip. Izuku and I were now walking through the entrance of our school, 𝗓𝗪𝗓 Junior High. We made it before the bell rang as we sat on our desks. I sit next to him. "So, as third-year students, it's time to start thinking seriously about your futures and about what you want to do with your lives." Our teacher started as he looked at all of us. "I could pass out some career test, but why bother?" He shrugged and snatched some papers from his table as he smirked. Everyone all of a sudden began to show their quirks as they also smirked, knowing what he's going to say. "We all know you lot want to go to the hero track," he yelled as everyone cheered. I let out a sigh as I looked over at Izuku, who looked annoyed with all this. "I feel the same, to be honest. You all have some pretty impressive quirks, but no power usage allowed in the school. Get a hold of yourselves," he said as everyone began to settle down. "Hey teach, don't let me in with these bunch of losers. I'm the real deal, but these guys will be lucky to end up as sidekicks to some busted 𝗕𝗏𝗏," said none other than 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏, or in Izuku's case, Kaken. He seriously gets me pissed sometimes with his stupid overflowing ego. He always thinks he's better than everyone else and that gets me heated. "You think you're better than us, 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏. Some guy somewhere in the class with a death wish said as everyone agreed with him. Even I do, and I'm sure Izuku does too. Let's go. I'll take you all on right here right now. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 yelled back with a stupid smirk on his face. I wish I can punch that smirk right out of him right now. You've got impressive test results. Maybe you will get into you. 𝗕𝗁𝗍. The teacher said as 𝗵𝗃𝗲 smirked even more. People started mumbling here and they're surprised that he is gonna try for the national school, which is impossible to get into. I looked over at Izuku to see the shocked face he's making. He let out a defeated groan as he slowly put his head down. Even I feel like putting my head down in defeat. That's why it's the only school worthy of me. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said as he flipped himself on top of his desk with his fist raised up to his face. I aced all the mock test. I'm the only one in this school who stands a chance at getting in. I'll end up more popular than All Might himself. People all around the world will know my name. And it all starts with you. 𝗕𝗁𝗍. He said, and right then and there I wanted to get up and throw him out the window. I was so mad that my face was probably red and you can probably see the veins popping out of my forehead. Oh yeah, Midoriya and 𝗬𝗓𝗏, don't you guys want to go to you? 𝗕𝗏𝗏. He asked, and that's when I was no longer angry. I was now terrified. In the corner of my eyes, I can see a scared Izuku slowly looking up at 𝗵𝗃𝗲 who was frozen in shock. But from here I can feel the burning anger boiling inside of him. Well, I guess this is the end for F/NL/N and Izuku Midoriya. Everyone in the class looked at us and silence was all that there was in the class. Until they all erupted with laughter. I felt my face turn red with embarrassment as Izuku's face looked really defeated and also embarrassed. There's no way they're gonna be heroes without a quirk. Someone in the class said, still laughing. Actually, they got rid of that rule. W can be the first ones. Izuku said bravely, standing up, but then 𝗵𝗃𝗲 exploded his desk away, causing Izuku to fly back and land on the ground. Listen up, Deku. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said, standing in front of him as Izuku looked up at him with terror. You and that beach over there are even worse than these other rejects. You Quirkless wannabe. You really think they would let you two in when they could have someone like me? He yelled in Izuku's face. He just called me a beach, he just called me a beach. That's it. Now he went and done it. I got up and walked in front of Izuku, glaring hard at 𝗵𝗃𝗲. First off, don't call me a beach, you dipshit. I yelled at him, which was a mistake because he pushed me back and I fell on my butt next to Izuku. No wait, we weren't trying to compete against you. You gotta believe me. It's just that I wanted to be a hero since I was little, and so did F/N. I mean, we may not have a quirk, but we can still try our hardest, can't we? He finally finished saying. I looked up at an extremely mad 𝗵𝗃𝗲. You'll never be able to be with the best of the best. You both die at the exams. He said as everyone else smirked evilly at the both of you. What have we gotten ourselves into? Later that day, 2:30 p.m. It was now the end of school and everyone was leaving while Izuku and I packed our stuff. Man, that fight this morning is all over the news, Izuku said, checking his phone. Well, obviously it's not something new, you know. It's an everyday thing. Heroes fight, they win, and then they end up all over the news. I said, finishing packing my stuff. Well, anyway, I better write some notes down before I forget anything. He said as he grabbed his notebook, but then it was soon snatched by 𝗵𝗃𝗲. I don't know what you think you guys are doing, but we're not done with our conversation from earlier. He said while swaying Izuku's notebook in the air. There's nothing to talk about, 𝗵𝗃𝗲. If you think you're going to stop us from going to you, then you better think again. I said, glaring at him and his pals who were behind him. Shut it, you quirkless beach. He said back to me. I was about to say something else, but then one of his pals spoke. Whatcha got there? His diary. But number one said as 𝗵𝗃𝗲 handed him the notebook which had hero analysis for the future number 13 written on it. Don't tell me you're taking notes on how to be a hero. But number one said, laughing. That's so pathetic. But number two said while also laughing. Give Izuku his notebook back, you 𝗬𝗪𝗐𝗐. I yelled at 𝗵𝗃𝗲, who then smirked and bombed his book with his explosion quirk instead and threw it out the window. That's cold. Most top first-string heroes have stories about them from their school days. I want the shine of being able to be called the only student to make it to you. From this crappy junior high school. I mean, I am a perfectionist after all. He said in all his glory that I wanted to crush so badly. I'm so pathetic though. I'm just standing here shaking and not doing anything about the situation right now. I'm not worthy of being Izuku's best friend. He deserves someone better than me. I saw as Bakugo put a hand on Izuku's shoulder, making it smoke. So anyway, he said while giving him a fake smile. Don't apply to you. A nerd. He said as he let go of his shoulder. Izuku tried to say something back but couldn't out of fear. Bakugo then walked up to me and did the same thing. Same goes for you, Beach. He said with that same sickening fake smile of his. How I hate his but right now. After that, they left and I just hung my head low in disappointment. After that whole situation, we both began to walk out of school in silence. I looked up a little to see his book in the school pond with koi fish surrounding it. I walked over and grabbed it and gave it to Izuku. I'm sorry, I whispered. Why are you apologizing? It's not your fault. He said, well, I feel like it is. I yelled at him, catching him off guard. I could have done something but I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. What kind of a best friend am I when I can't even help you? How am I supposed to become a hero when I couldn't even move or say something to that idiot? You said as tears came out of your eyes. Izuku walked closer to me and he hugged me. It's not your fault, I understand that you were scared and it's okay. We made a promise 𝗵/N and we will accomplish that promise one day, together. He said as you hugged him back, remembering the day you guys made that promise. Flashback when you guys were 4 years old, 𝗵/N come on. It's computer time. Young Izuku said while holding his All Might action figure. My mom and I were currently visiting Izuku's mom as usual. I had an All Might cape on as I ran to Izuku's room to watch All Might's fight video with him. Geez, I don't know why you kids like this. I think it's scary, really. Izuku's mom said as she put the video on for us. We both looked intensely at the screen with smiles on our faces while the video started. The video we loved was an old one. It's a disaster that happened long ago. The video of the best hero the world has ever known. As All Might came into view in the video and as he said his line that always had the fans screaming, Izuku and I began to jump with joy and excitement. He the coolest in the universe. We both yelled at the same time. Once we get our quirks, we can be a hero just like him. Izuku said to me. I nodded, agreeing with him as we fist bumped. That was a happy day for user, so we thought. A week after that, my mom told me that Izuku's mom called to deliver bad news. That the doctors declared Izuku quirkless. Izuku's mom suggested that my mom took me to the hospital to check if I'm gonna be able to have a quirk or not. When the doctors did check and told me and my mom the news a few moments later, I felt crushed. I was also quirkless. We were once again at Izuku's house. My mom and Izuku's mom were both talking while Izuku and I were sitting watching All Might with depressed faces that were full of tears. Izuku's mom and my mom were both staring at us from the bedroom door with worried and sad faces. I hated it. They felt pity for us. See that, Mom? There's always a smile on his face no matter how bad things get, Izuku said with his shaky voice. Even when things seem impossible, he never gives up, I said afterward with the same shaky voice. As we both turned around, both of moms began to have tears in their eyes. Do you think we can be heroes too when we grow up? Izuku and I said. After that, both of our moms hugged us and apologized for us not having a quirk. But that's not what we wanted to hear. Later on, we both were laying on the floor looking up at the ceiling with tired eyes. Hey 𝗵/N. Let's make a promise. Izuku said while sitting up and looking at me. What's the promise? I said while sitting up as well. A promise that with or without a quirk we will work hard to become strong heroes like All Might. He said with a shaky smile as he held up his pinky. I looked at him and smiled too, feeling myself blush a little. Yeah, I like that promise. I said as you locked pinkies with him. And that's how our promise came to be. Flashback over, I looked up at him and nodded while I backed up and used my sleeves to clean my face. Well, we better head home. Your mom is coming over to help my mom make dinner. They're making 𝗵/F favorite food tonight. He said while fixing his bag and walking towards you. Actually, you can go on ahead. I left something back in science class. I'll catch up with you. I said, remembering I left my notebook there with my homework. Are you sure you don't want me to wait for you here? He said. Nah, go on without me. I'll see you in a bit, I said while running back in the school. It was really quiet and I admit it scares me, but I won't let that bother me. As I made it to the 3rd floor and into my science class, I go to my desk and look under it and find my book with my homework in it. That's when I heard the door shut behind me. I quickly look up to see if it was a teacher, but it wasn't. It was a man with white wild hair and glasses. He was wearing a white lab coat and he had a cigar in his mouth. No, this is not Stain from Soul Eater. I decide not to ask him why he is here and leave. I'm sorry, I came back to get my notebook, but I'll be leaving now, I said as I tried to leave, but he pushed me back. I don't think so, young lady, he said with an ugly smirk on his face. He used his quirk to tie me up and it happened so fast I couldn't dodge it. I stared at him with a horrified look on my face. You're gonna be testing something for me, he said as he laughed like a madman and pulled out a medium-sized syringe filled with this red-like substance that had a hint of gold here and there. Oh hell no. As he injected me with the red substance, I screamed, but soon I began to feel dizzy and for some reason not so weak. I then began to see black dots everywhere and soon enough I blacked out. His crazy laughter being the last thing I heard. I slowly opened my eyes to see fire surrounding the room but not coming near me. I slowly sat up to see the man with the lab coat dead in front of me. What happened? How did all of this happen? Did I do this? But how? I don't even have a quirk. Unless I look down at the syringe that is now shattered on the floor. F/N. You heard the voice of Izuku yell. I don't remember anything that happened after he injected me with that red substance. F/N. My vision began to blur as I felt myself fall back into the floor. My body was becoming numb. I could barely keep my eyes open. F/N. I felt hot tears streaming down my eyes as I kept looking up at the ceiling trying to not fall into the darkness. F/N. What happened to me? Izuku's POV surprise. It's mainly just episode 2 with some stuff added to it. If you want to skip to where Izuku goes to find you, then go ahead. Before the incident, as I walked away leaving 𝗬𝗂 behind to get her stuff, I started thinking about what everyone in the class said today. In all honesty, I don't know how we were supposed to become heroes without a quirk, but I know that somehow someday we will become heroes like we promised each other we would. As I walked through a tunnel, I began to hear blubbering noises coming from behind me. I slowly turned around as I stared at the giant green gooey villain in front of me. The villain. I screamed out as the villain began to tower above me. I couldn't move at that moment nor speak. I was frozen in fear. You'll make a perfect skin suit for me to hide in, kid, the villain said, and at that moment I screamed and tried to run away, but the villain caught me and tried to enter my body through my mouth. Don't worry, I'm just taking over your body. It will be easier for both of us if you don't fight back. It will only hurt for a minute. You'll feel better soon, he said as I tried scratching him away from me, but it was no use. I was going to die here alone. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. 𝗬𝗂𝗵𝗲 sorry. RD person POV. As Izuku struggled to breathe, a sewer cap flew out of nowhere and hit the villain. The villain looked back in fear to be greeted by the #1 hero, All Might. Have no fear. You're safe, All Might said to Izuku, but he fainted a long time ago. Now that I'm here, that is, he said with that big smile of his. The villain attacked him, missing All Might by an inch. All Might launched himself at the villain and delivered a well-deserved punch. Texas smash, he said as he sent the villain flying, causing it to release Izuku. Izuku's POV. I was unconscious as I felt someone slap my cheeks repeatedly. Wake up. The stranger slapping me said. Annoyed with the slapping, I began to open my eyes to see All Might standing right on top of me. Oh my god. Thought we lost you there. Jeez, he said, letting out a sigh of relief. I yelled as I backed up about a few feet or so. Well, looks like you're moving all right, he said as I continued to shake, not believing what was happening right now. All Might is standing right in front of me and talking to me. I think I'm dead. Sorry about that back there. I didn't mean to get you caught up in my justicing. Usually I pay more close attention to keeping bystanders safe. But it turns out, the city sewer system is pretty difficult to navigate. Ha, he said as the world began to spin on me. I'm not dead after all. I can't believe this is happening. Anyway, you were a big help. Thank you. I've captured the evil villain thanks to you. He said as he showed me 2 bottles with the green slimy villain from before. Holy CRP. I gotta get an autograph. I gotta have a pen here somewhere. I said frantically looking for a pen. When I found it I took my notebook and told All Might to sign it, but he already did. I can't wait to show 𝗧𝗵𝗲, I said in my head. Oh my God, thank you so much. I said as I bowed 1,000,000 times to him. It will be an heirloom. A family treasure passed down to generations to come. I finished and he gave me a thumbs up. Oh, I gotta get this guy to the police so that they can take care of him. He said as he patted the bottle in his pocket. Stay out of trouble. See you around. All Might said as he began to get ready to jump. Wait, you're leaving already? I said, a bit sad that he had to go. I mean, I might never see this guy again. Pro heroes are constantly fighting time as well as enemies. He said as he finished stretching and got into his jumping position. He can't go yet. There are still so many questions I want to ask him. Now stand back. I'm taking off. He said as he jumped with me, grabbing his waist. Huh. He looked down on me as I screamed in terror, afraid that I might fall. 𝗕𝗁𝙢𝙢𝙢𝗵𝘆, what do you think you're doing? All Might yelled. Let go. I love my fans, but this is way too much. He said, trying to get me to let go. Is he that dense to realize that if I let go I'll die? Alright, well, hold on then. He said. We continued to fly. Time skip. When we landed on a random building I told him that I needed to ask him a few questions before he leaves, but he refused, telling me that he had to leave fast. But I still asked him that one important question that was needed to be a sketch so that I can tell 𝗧𝗵𝗲 when I get back home. Is it possible to become a hero even if you don't have a quirk? I said loud enough for him to hear. He stopped in his tracks and looked at me from the corner of his eyes. I'm a normal kid without any powers, and so is my best friend. Could we ever hope to become someone like you? I said to him, closing my eyes and waiting for his response. Without a quirk. He said, but without me noticing his body began to smoke. People think me and my best friend don't have a chance, I said, looking down on the ground. That not having any powers makes us some kind of weakling. My classmates like to make fun of us, mostly me. But you know what, that makes me want to prove them wrong. Ever since we were kids we thought saving people was the coolest thing that we could do. 𝗵/N, and I want people to see our fearless smiles and feel safe, and be the kind of heroes everyone in the world looks up to. I said as I slowly looked up and slowly opened my eyes. Just like you. I said, but froze as I saw a scrawny old blonde man standing in the place where All Might stood. What? What happened? You deflated. I said as I stood there looking at the man in front of me. What the hell? Are you an imposter? I asked as I pointed at him. I assure you that I am a _, he said, but stopped as 𝗵𝗃𝗍 came out of his mouth. What the hell? I said, feeling a little worried right now. He told me how he can transform the way he can, and honestly I was shocked. This can't be real, I said as I looked at him and figuring out if I'm dreaming or not. Anyway, I'm counting on you to keep your mouth shut. Don't go talking about this online or to your friends. He said as he sat on the ground. I looked at him with confusion until he lifted up his shirt to show me a nasty wound on his stomach or chest. Grows right? I got this in a big fight 5 years back. My repertory system was basically destroyed. I lost my whole stomach. All the surgeries have pretty much worn me out, and it can't be fixed. He said as he put his shirt back down. Now I felt bad for him. I didn't know this happened to him at all. Right now I can only do hero work for about 3 hours a day. Rest of the time, this is what I look like. He said as I looked down at the ground. Now I wish I would have just let him go and not ask him anything. I can tell he didn't want to tell me this or let me find out about this secret. No way is this the fight that you had with Toxic Chainsaw. I asked him. Wow, you know your stuff. But a punk like that couldn't defeat me. Most of the world has never heard of this fight. I asked that it not be made public. I will save people with a smile. The symbol of peace cannot be daunted by evil. I smile to show the pressure of heroes, and to trick the fear inside of me. He said, looking straight at me as I gasped. Heroes are always risking their lives. Some villains just cannot be beaten without powers. So no, I honestly don't think you nor your friend can become heroes without a quirk. He said, and that broke my heart and my dreams into tiny little pieces. I looked down as tears began to come out of my eyes. I see, I said. If you guys want to help people, there are plenty other ways to do it. You guys can be police officers. They are often teased because they get villains delivered to their doorstep, but that is also a fine occupation. 𝗕𝗵𝗃 said as he walked away, leaving me alone up here. But before he left he said, it's not bad to dream, but you also have to consider what's realistic, young man. And that was that. I don't want to break that promise 𝗬𝗏 and I made, but that promise now has a huge crack on it because of what 𝗕𝗵𝗃 said. As I stood there I heard an explosion causing me to look up at where it was coming from. A villain. I wonder what hero will show up. I said as I began to run towards the door. But then I remembered what 𝗕𝗵𝗃 said and that made me stop in my tracks. That really brought me down, and I know this will haunt me for a really long time, and I will have to tell 𝗬𝗏. Damn it, I don't like seeing her hurting. Time skipped to an shopping district. As I walked around looking at my notebook, I heard another explosion coming to my right. I looked with confusion as I jogged over there only to see the goo monster out and rampaging. What? But I thought 𝗕𝗵𝗃 caught him. How can this? Wait, when he jumped and I grabbed him, I must have made it fall out of his pocket. This is my fault. I overheard someone saying that a kid got captured by the goo villain. That made me wonder how that kid is holding up. I mean, I almost died within seconds of being suffocated by that thing. As I covered my mouth and looked closely at who the kid is, my body began to move on its own. 𝗂𝗁, he's the kid in there, and even though I know he hates me, I have to save him. But how? As I ran closer I heard the heroes yelling at me to stop and to come back, but I didn't listen. I just kept running. I don't know why I want to stop, but I can't. You're toast, kid. The goo said as he was about to punch me. So I took off my book bag and threw it at him as I kept running towards 𝗂𝗁. 𝗂𝗁! I yelled as I began to scratch him free. What the hell? Why are you here? He yelled, trying to pry himself free. I don't know. My body won't stop moving. I said as I kept scratching. I don't know why I did what I did. Maybe it was the look on his face, 𝗂𝗁. I couldn't just stand there and watch you die. Even if you hate me. I said while tears continued to come out of my eyes. Just as the goo was about to hit you, 𝗕𝗵𝗃 came. I really am pathetic, 𝗕𝗵𝗃 said as you stared at him in shock. 𝗕𝗵𝗃, but dash, I said as I watched him. Even though I admonished you, I wasn't putting what I said into practice. He said as he punched away the goo and took 𝗂𝗁 by the arm. BLD was coming out of 𝗕𝗵𝗃's mouth as he said, pros are always risking their lives. And I stared at him in awe. Damn you 𝗕𝗵𝗃. The goo said as 𝗕𝗵𝗃 Detroit smashed it, causing a big tornado and strong wind to appear. I opened my eyes to see that the fire was gone and so was the goo villain. And then there was silence as it began to rain. 𝗕𝗵𝗃 changed the F whether I was about to say something when another explosion was heard near here, and I looked behind me to see that it was coming from 𝗎𝗪 Junior High. At that moment my heart skipped a beat as I began to run towards it, screaming out 𝗵𝗃 name. Please be okay, please be okay, I said in my head as I picked up my speed. Your POV. I opened my eyes to see a white ceiling. When I looked down I saw a green-haired boy sleeping on my lap. A small smile crept its way into my mouth as I put my right hand on his soft hair. I felt him stir, meaning he was waking up. When he looked at me, he stood up and tears began to fall out of his eyes as he hugged me. Oh my god, Yuroki was so scared you weren't going to wake up, damn it. Don't ever do that again. He told me, sobbing as tears began to fall from my eyes too. After our crying moment, he told me that I have been in a 1-week sleep. He told me what happened before he found me, and I was honestly regretting not going with him. I mean, he got to meet 𝗕𝗵𝗃 and even get his autograph. But then he told me his secret and I was shocked. Izuku told me not to tell anyone and I promised I wouldn't. So, what happened after you brought me here to the hospital? I asked. Well, he said, beginning to tell me what happened. He told me that after 𝗂𝗁 told him that he didn't need saving and ran off, 𝗕𝗵𝗃 appear on him seconds later. Izuku's flashback. In Izuku's POV, after 𝗕𝗵𝗃 appeared in his strong form and turned into his weak form, he began to cough out, young boy, I came to thank you. he said to me, which surprised me a lot. And also to talk about your question from earlier. He said, and that interested me. If you hadn't told me about your life, if you hadn't run into that fight, if you hadn't saved your best friend from that burning school, I would have been a worthless bystander watching from the crowd. So thanks. All Might said while slightly bowing his head. No. It was my fault the goo villain was there to begin with. I told him, holding my hand up for him to stop bowing. I got in the way of your hard work, I wasted your energy, not to mention the time, I began to say, but then All Might interrupted me. I'm not done. You told me you didn't have a quirk. So when I saw this timid quirkless boy try to save a life, well, 2 lives, it inspired me to act too. He said, and I looked up at him in shock. There are stories about every hero. How they became great. Most have one thing in common. Their bodies move before they had a chance to think, almost on their own. He said, and I felt tears beginning to come up in my eyes. For some reason, I remembered my mother's and 𝗵𝗃 mom's words at that moment. I'm sorry, Izuku, I wish things were different. I'm so sorry, 𝗵𝗃, that's what they said, and that's not what inner 𝗵𝗃 wanted to hear come out of their mouths. And today that's what happened to you, young man. All Might said as I began to cry even harder, slowly falling to my knees. You never told me, Mom, back then, the thing I wanted you to say, the thing 𝗵𝗃 wanted you both to say, the words we needed to hear, young man. You too can become a hero, and so can your friend. He said, and at that moment, the crack in the promise me and 𝗵𝗃 healed. The day was a terrifying day for me, but in the end, it was an appealing one. And I don't regret what happened at all. Dreams can become reality. I deem you worthy of my power. My quirk is yours to inherit. Flashback. Pause. Back to your P. What did he say? I said in shock. Did I hear him correctly? Did he really just say that All Might said that he was going to give Izuku his quirk? Would you let me finish? He said, giving me a playful glare. I smiled apologetically and nodded, and right now I wished I had some popcorn. Flashback. Continue. Izuku's POV. I deem you worthy of my power. My quirk is yours to inherit. He said, and my body froze completely. I slowly looked up at him and said, what? Not believing what he was saying. Wait, what do you mean inherit? Inherit what? I asked him as he began to laugh out loud. You should see your face right now. He said, still laughing, but then he stopped. Don't worry, I'm not going to force this thing on you. He said as he walked towards me. When he was closer to me, he pointed a finger in the air and said, listen well, young men. This is your choice. Do you want to accept my awesome power or not? He said while BLD began to come out of his mouth again. I didn't know what he was talking about, so I looked at him in confusion. There are a couple things you should know about my abilities. The tabloids called it superhuman strength and a boost, and I constantly dodged the question during interviews with a funny joke because the symbol of peace, All Might, had to be a natural-born hero. But I'm not. There's nothing natural about my ability. I wasn't born with this power. My quirk was passed on to me like a sacred torch. He said, and that shocked me 1000x more than I was already shocked. Someone gave you this quirk? No way, I said as sweat trickled down my face. Yes way. And you're next. I can give you my abilities. He said as he looked down at me. Wait. Hold on, this is a lot to process. I said, getting up on my feet. It's true that there's a lot of debate as to what your quirk actually is. No one has ever figured it out. It's one of the world's greatest mystery. People are constantly talking about it online. I said as I continued to mutter some stuff about how it's impossible to pass down a quirk to someone and blah blah blah. Sounds like you're overthinking this whole inheriting thing, All Might said as he stopped me from my muttering. Stop nerding out. He said as I looked up at him in shock. Wow. I may hide a lot of things, but I don't lie. All Might said as something blue began to blow in the palm of both his hands. The power to transfer power, that is the quirk I inherit. I was crowned with one for all. He said, and I looked up at him in utter amazement. One for all, I said under my breath. Yes, one person improves the power. Then hands it off to another person, that continues to grow as it is passed on. It is the crystallization of power that spins together the voices of those who need help with a courageous heart. He said as the blue light dimmed and he clenched his fist. But why would you choose to give me a gift like that? What if I can't live up to it? I asked him. I was on a long hunt for a worthy successor, and then I watched you jump into action as the rest of us just stood idly by. You may just be a Quirkless fanboy, but you tried to save that kid, and then you saved that other girl in that school right away. He said as I remembered going in to save 𝗵/N as I saw her there on the ground unconscious with fire around her but not touching her. I immediately grabbed her and took her out of there as the pros finished doing the rest. You acted like a true hero. All Might said, smiling, and that caused me to cry again. God, I'm such a crybaby. Seriously, you gotta stop crying so much if you want my quirk. All Might said while laughing. He said so much to encourage me. He even told me the secrets behind his power. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 this what I have been waiting for all these years. How can I turn this opportunity down? I'll do it, I said as I cleaned off my tears and stood bravely staring at him with a smile. An immediate reply. That's what I thought you'd say, was the last thing he said before I told him I had to go. Flashback over your 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗹𝗶 was all I can say as tears came out of my eyes. I swear what he said sounded like something out of a movie or anime. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 no. Okay, he gave me his phone number and told me that training would start as soon as you get better. He told me as he added his number to my phone. Wait, what? Why are you adding his phone number to my phone? Not that I'm complaining, I said while he handed me my phone. Right, I forgot to tell you, the doctors said that they found this weird thing in your body, well, in your BLD. So they took some BLD out of you to examine it. All Might came in yesterday and he said that strong power that he's never felt before was radiating off of your body, and I told him that you didn't have a quirk, so how could that be? He started thinking and then he said that as soon as you wake up he would like to speak with you. Also, don't worry about acting like you don't know his secret. He said it was okay for me to tell you. He said, smiling as he sent someone a text. I'm assuming he told All Might that I have awakened. But then the realization came crashing down on me like a meteor. All Might wants to talk to me, I said as I felt sweat trickle down my face. He was about to reply when the #1 hero himself appeared in the room in his strong form. My God. That was fast, but he's here in the flesh. I think I'm dead. Hello, young man. And hello, young lady, he said with his huge smile. I can't believe this is happening. All Might, am I dreaming? I said as I started to have a hard time breathing. No, you are not. But young lady, I came to talk to you about what happened last week. All Might said as he sat next to Izuku, who was surprisingly calm. But then I remembered that he met All Might before I did. Lucky bastard. Right, well, I was walking out of my school with Izuku until I remembered I left my science notebook. So I went back to the school to get it. When I got to the science lab and got it, I was about to leave, but there was this weird-looking guy standing at the entrance of the class. I told him calmly, which surprised me because a few seconds ago I was freaking out. Was it that white-haired man that was laying on the ground in the lab you were in? He asked and I nodded. So what happened after that? He said, encouraging me to continue. After the man came in, he locked the door. I told him that I only came to get my science notebook, and then I tried to leave, but he didn't let me. He tied me up with his quirk, and then he pulled out a medium-sized syringe that was filled with this red with gold substance. After he injected me with that, I blacked out. I don't have any memory of what happened next. I just woke up to see fire surrounding me but not touching me and hearing Izuku calling me, but then I blacked out again. I finished saying as I looked down into my folded hands. Well, the special police force did find a video of what happened in that classroom, and they said that they will show you as soon as you awake. They should be on their way right now, but it will take a few minutes. Now, the doctor took some of your BLD to see why you have this immense power coming from you. Midoriya did tell me, and the doctors said that you were quirkless and they are trying to figure out what happened to you and why you have this power now. There are scientists helping here with this case as well. All Might said as he looked like he was thinking about something. The doctor then came in a second later with a letter in his hands. Hello, miss. Glad that you're awake now. Hello, All Might, and hello to you too, young man. The doctor greeted. I'm Dr. Hatsuki. Right here I have your BLD DNA results that will tell you if you have a quirk or not, and it will tell you why you have this power. He said as he passed it to me, and I took it with my shaking hands. That day was the day I found out I was no longer quirkless. That day was also the day that All Might said he would help train me and Izuku. For some reason I'm extremely excited but scared about this. Yesterday I found out I had a quirk, and it was all because of that crazy guy who injected me with the weird red and gold substance. After I found out about my results, the special police came in and showed me the video of what happened after I blacked out. It showed me breaking free from the ties that the crazy man captured me with. It showed me being engulfed by flames mixed with lightning. It showed me fighting the crazy man with a bunch of different quirks. Lastly, it showed me destroying the man, causing a fire to erupt in the class, and me fainting afterwards. All Might was beyond shocked, and he said that he has never seen anything like what happened in the video before. Izuku just stared at me in shock and disbelief. I was just sitting there as my body paled. The fight I had with the man was long, and it looked like the man was really strong, but I won in the end. Today I was being released from the hospital, but now All Might and the special police are keeping a close eye on me. All Might told the police that he would train me and get me to go to you, so that I could take better classes and better training. I was excited about that but also nervous. I mean, what if I can't control my powers? What if accidentally injure someone by accident? Kill someone, which is even worse. I don't know if I can do this time. Skip 2 days later, early morning location. 𝗕𝗏𝗵𝗃 Municipal Beach Park. This is such a comfy fridge to sit on. All Might said as Izuku and I pushed a 2 giant fridges. But with All Might laying on them. So far we haven't moved the fridge, not even a little. I would have moved it by now with the new quirk. Or quirks that I know have, but All Might put this silver bracelet on me that takes away my quirks until he takes it off, and I'm not allowed to take it off until I build up some muscle. Izuku won't get his quirk until he builds up muscle either. We both pushed one more time but had no luck as we fell to the ground face first. People move these every day, you know, and most of them don't even have super strength. He said, "Well, yeah, but there's an extra 600 pounds with you laying on top of them." I said as I sat up facing him. "Actually, I have lost weight, so I'm down to 560 these days." He said, "That's still heavy though, what the F? Anyway, why are we dragging trash at the beach park?" I asked, looking around the beach. That looks like a dump yard instead. "Ha, take a look at yourselves. Young man, you ain't worthy of my power. And you little miss aren't even worthy to have such great power in you. I should just take away your powers now," he said as he took 2 pictures, making my head snap back at him. What he said hurt though. Even if he is right, I'm trying the best I can. If I don't try, then All Might has permission to take away my powers with this potion that the doctors and scientists made yesterday. The potion takes away all my powers, or in their words, it kills it. They said that the amount of power that I have in my body can kill me and tear me to pieces, which is the reason why they want me to continue training with All Might, and also the reason why they recommended me to go to you, the greatest superhero school of all times. They said all this yesterday while I was getting checked on for the second time to see if anything new popped up. Right? They also said that I might not even be able to use all of the quirks that I have in me, which made me a little disappointed. 𝗕𝗏𝗃. But I thought you said I was worthy. I heard Izuku say as he looked down in shame with tears falling out of his eyes. I swear he's such a crybaby sometimes. I'm talking about your weak bodies. All Might said while walking towards us, still taking pictures of Izuku. Thank God he stopped taking pictures of me. My quirk, one for all, is a whole lot to handle. The combined physical abilities of everyone who's ever used it creates a hurricane appear by force. An unprepared body cannot fully inherit it. Your arms and legs will shoot off if you try to," he said with a serious face, and that made Izuku freak out. "Same goes for you too, little miss. Your quirk is a one that no one has ever seen before, and that's not a good thing. Your quirk can break and explode your body if you overlimit your powers and don't train enough, which is why I'm training you and Izuku this way. I have full authority to take away your powers Y/N, and as for you, Izuku, it isn't hard to remove the one I'm about to give you soon either. Therefore you both need to try harder, because I believe that you both will be amazing heroes when you guys grow up and have full control of your powers," he said. The last part made me less nervous than what he said in the beginning. When he said that my body can break and explode if I overlimit my powers, that made me a little nauseous and pale, and I can tell Izuku is a little scared too. Okay, so this whole trash thing is really some kind of hardcore gym workout, and you're our trainer. Izuku said, looking around the beach and then up at All Might. Yup. But there's another reason too. He said as I began to get slightly nervous for what he was going to say. I did a little online research yesterday after that little meeting I had with the scientists and doctors and 𝗵𝗃 here, and I discovered that part of this beach park's coast has been like this for many years. All Might said, punching one of the fringes lightly, making a small but visible dent on it. That's right, Izuku said while standing up. I stood up too and dusted the grains of sand off me. Because of the ocean currents, anything that's dropped in the water ends up here. People take advantage of that when they are illegally dumping their trash. Now all the locals avoid this place. Izuku stated. Sometimes I wonder how all of the smart things he has said fit in his brain. Like, not even I can remember so many things. Heroes these days are all about showing off and capturing flashy villains. All Might said as he put one hand on the fridge I was pulling, and as he crushed it he said, originally, being a hero meant doing volunteer service. Even if people called that boring or whatever, you can't waver from those roots. Izuku and I paled as All Might finished crushing it and making it explode, creating a huge gush of wind to circle us all. You'll both restore the coastline for this entire section of the beach. This is the first step on both of your paths towards being a hero. He said as he looked at the both of us, and as I looked at him, I knew that this wouldn't be an easy task for the both of us, but I know that we will help each other the best we can. From all this, 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗍𝗵𝗃 that's impossible. Izuku said while looking around the beach once again. I nodded in agreement. You two want to go to you? Right. All Might asked us. I don't really have a choice, but yeah. I do want to go there. I said while Izuku nodded, agreeing with me. You went there. So it must be the best school around, right? It's a long shot, but still 𝗵/N and I are gonna shoot for the moon. He said with a cute smile that made me blush a little, but I hid it with my 𝗕/L hair. You've got a lot of spirit, fanboy. But as I mentioned before, being a hero is not something you can do without a quirk, or in the little Mrs. case, without learning how to control your quirk, especially one that can kill you at any moment when using it. It's sad, but that's reality. He said as all three of us looked out at the shining ocean and the sunset. A is the hardest hero course to get in Toso, that means dash, that I have to prepare my body for your quirk really fast. And 𝗵/N need to prepare her body for her quirks. Izuku said, cutting All Might off. A's exams are in 10 months. I finished saying for him. Not to worry, kids. I got you both covered. With the help of my handy, aim to pass, American dream plan. All Might said as he turned around with a bunch of papers that I have no idea where he got. It's a training plan to help you two finish cleaning up the beach. I'll have you two follow this in every aspect of your life. He said, showing us the papers and what is written on them. I gotta say that he put a lot of effort into these, and it's really easy to understand. I'm feeling less nervous than how I felt in the beginning of all of this. Even our sleep is scheduled, Izuku said while sweat ran down his face. If I'm being honest, this is going to be super hard. All Might said in our ears as he stood behind us both as we looked at the papers and read everything's. I find this easy, to be honest. Think you're both up to it? All Might asked us, and we didn't hesitate to nod. Although when Izuku said yes, he sounded nervous as F but had a determined face on. Yeah, sure I am. 𝗵/N and I have to work harder than anyone else to get in. So what choice do we have, right? I mean, we promised we would be the greatest heroes of all time. He said, and I agreed, smiling as I remembered when we made that promise. All Might nodded, looking very proud at our answers. Just like that, we both began 10 months of absolute hell. Time skipped 7 months later. It's been 7 months and I haven't had that much to sleep or rest. It was all worth it though, because now I'm stronger than before. Izuku has been talking to himself in class a lot, and we both looked dead, so everyone kept looking at us like if we pee in our foreheads. It annoyed me, but I didn't let it get to me, and neither did Izuku. Today me and Izuku were running while carrying heavy objects on our shoulders. All Might was in front of us in his weak form while riding one of those black self-balance scooters. I don't know what they are called, but I put a picture of it below. I stop as I heard a thud next to me. I looked to that Izuku fell on the ground, so I let go of my heavy object and ran to him. "Izuku, you okay?" I asked him as I put a hand on his shoulder, but he didn't answer. All I can hear is his heavy breathing. Hey kid. Look alive now. You only got 3 months left. Are you really going to give up after all this work? Wanna flush it all down the toilet and take it easy? All Might asked while looking at Izuku. I felt bad for him, but All Might is right. We can't give up. Not after all the effort we have been putting through these months. I felt Izuku grab my hand and push it off gently as he tried to get up, but I can tell that he was really sore and tired, and honestly so am I. You're overworked. The Aim to Pass, American Dream Plan, was created with your bonus in mind to make sure you'd both make it in time for the entrance exam. You two haven't been sticking to the plan, have you? He said, looking at us with disappointment. He's right on that. I've only been doing some of the stuff that plan said, but I've been ignoring the rest. I guess Izuku ignored almost the whole things. Overdoing it will have the opposite effect. Don't you guys want to get in? He asked, and I looked down in shame. I have to work harder. I won't stand a chance against the other applicants. Izuku weakly said, making me look at him in pity. I completely understand though. I don't just want into you. I want to excel. I want to be like you. Izuku said as he tried to get up again. I don't want to break the promise 𝗵/N and I made. I want to become the greatest hero in the world. So I'll keep on trying. Until I have what it takes to do that. He finished saying as he began to cry tears again. Me too. I said, looking up at All Might, who had a shocked yet proud look on his face. He turned into his strong form and grabbed Izuku and I from the back of our shirts. That fighting spirit is what I like about you both. It serves you both well. I do get your concerns. That's it, now is not the time to go and rush progress. Fear not. I can get you both back on track. Leave it to this old man to adjust your plan. He finished saying. I gave him a little smile as I began to feel my eyelids go heavy. Why, you're not an old man, All Might. I said, and he laughed. That was the last thing I heard before sleep took over me. Time skipped 3 months later, the morning of the exams, 6 a.m. It was the morning of the exams and I was now pumped. Me and Izuku woke up extra early and finished cleaning the rest of the trash that was left. Now we were screaming in victory and being happy that we completed the training. I looked towards the parking lot to see All Might in his weak form standing there looking at the beach in shock and then looking at us with an extremely proud face, making me smirk, while Izuku still yelled in victory and happiness. Holy crap, you guys even cleaned outside the area that I told you to. Seriously, there's not one speck of trash left on this beach. All Might said as he walked up to us and looked around in amazement. That part about cleaning the outside area was my idea. I thought it would be nice if we did, and I'm glad we did. Only a few minutes to spare. But you two exceeded my expectations. 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗂𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗂. He said as he turned into his strong form in a blink of an eye. I jumped down from where I was standing, almost falling, but All Might caught me. I looked up at Izuku, who fell down, but All Might catched him too. Excellent work, you two. I feel like a proud father. He told us, making us smile weakly at him. We finished everything, All Might, Izuku said, his voice cracking here and there. We did it, I also said, happy with what we have done. Do you think we are ready now? I asked him, hoping that he said yes. Yeah, you two did good. I gotta say I'm impressed and beyond shocked at both of your progresses. I knew you both had it in you, but this is beyond. All Might said as he let Izuku down. I put one of his hands around my shoulder so that we can both support each other as we stood in front of All Might. It didn't really bother me that he was sweating gallons, just because I was also sweating a lot too. Look at this. All Might said, showing us a picture. It was one of Izuku and I laying on the floor, tired and looking like beat-up chickens. It's the both of you 10 months ago, crying and looking like a bunch of weaklings. All Might said, very rudely, may I add. But again, he's right. Compared to no, we were weak as F back then. Now we have abs and muscle. Izuku, there's still a long road ahead of you before you can inherit my full power, and 𝗵/N same goes for you if you want to be able to control all of your powers without dying. But besides that, you both have made me very proud. And you are both worthy of becoming heroes. All Might. Do I deserve this? Are you sure? I heard Izuku ask, making me look at him. He had a weak smile on his face as he looked down. Huh? All Might asked, looking a bit confused. You put so much time and energy into helping 𝗎𝗁, did we end up so lucky? Izuku finished while tears spilled out of his eyes. I smiled at him as I felt my own tears coming out. It was both of your hard works that did this, not mine. All Might said while patting both of our backs. It's time for the award ceremony, he said as he stood tall in front of us. Midoriya first. All Might said as I let go of Izuku, who was now standing in front of All Might. All Might took out one strand of his golden hair and said, "This is something I was once told. Something that you receive because you're lucky and something that you are given because you are recognized are different in essence. Take that to heart, young man," he said in all seriousness. "This is power that you earned because of your own effort," he said. Izuku nodded in understanding and my smile grew a little more. Also, did I mention that during all of this Izuku has been shirtless? Let me tell you that his body right now is to die for. Now eat this, All Might said while holding the golden strand of hair in Izuku's face. PFF. Ha. I started laughing because of the face Izuku made when All Might said that. But is All Might being serious? Does Izuku have to eat that hair in order to get his powers? Or is All Might just playing with him? Come again, Izuku said, not understanding what's happening anymore. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as you take in my DNA. All Might said while scratching the back of his head. This isn't exactly how I imagined it, Izuku yelled, making me laugh again. It's not funny F/N, Izuku said while grabbing my shoulder and shaking me, trying to make me stop laughing, but it only made me laugh more. Come on. There's no time. You'll be late for the exam, All Might said, grabbing Izuku and forcing him to eat the hair. A few minutes later, after that hilarious moment, All Might told me pretty much the same thing. Instead of giving me a hair strand to eat, thank goodness he took off my bracelet. When he did, I felt this immense power surge through me. It felt weird yet amazing at the same time. How do you feel? Izuku asked me with a soft smile on his face, making me blush a little. I feel amazing, weird but amazing, I said while giving him and All Might a smile back. Now F/N, you still need to be careful while using your powers. You still can't go over past your limits until you get more training at you. And graduate. For these past 10 months you and Midoriya have been like my children to me, and I don't want one of them dying, he said, and that made me tear up. I walked up to All Might and hugged him and whispered a weak thank you. And that was our 10-month training with All Might. Now it's time for Izuku and I to pass that exam and get into your POV 8:40 a.m. the same day a high school entrance exam location. Izuku and I ran to our houses to get ready to head out to I took a quick shower and put on my uniform and my hair up because it's kinda hot out. If you have short hair, then you did pigtails. It's 8:40 a.m. right now and Izuku and I are standing right in front of you. As some students passed by. Some stopped to admire the place. I can't believe we're here, I said while smiling. Yeah, and we made it just in time too, he said as he began to walk in with me beside him. Are you okay, Izuku? I asked him because he was making a weird face. Yeah, it's just I didn't even get a chance to test out my new power, he said while giving me a worried look. Neither have I, but it will be okay. I'm sure everything will go easy, I assured him, and he nodded, looking a little less worried about all this. I may have swallowed the hair, but I don't feel like anything great has happened to me yet, Izuku sighed while putting a hand on his mouth in disgust as we stopped for a second. I giggled at this. I was about to say something when the person I didn't want to see today spoke behind us. Stupid Deku, Bakugo said as we both looked behind us to be greeted with his angry face like always. I glared at him as he came closer. Kikakin, get out of my way, you dimwits, before I set you both on fire, Bakugo said while Izuku began to freak out. Morning. Let's both do our best, Izuku said, but stopped freaking out once Bakugo passed between us and continued walking towards the school. I really hate that ungrateful JRK, I said with an angry look on my face. F/N your hand, Izuku said, looking down at my hand with a surprised look. Huh, I said as I looked down to see that my hand was engulfed with red fire. What the F? Izuku, help. WTF. My hand's on fire, I said while waving my hand up and down while people began to give me weird looks. 𝗵/and relax. He said as he put both his hands on my shoulder. I relaxed and realized that the fire wasn't hurting me. Could this be one of my quirks? As I thought about it, the fire in my hands went out. After that weird moment, Izuku and I began to walk again, but then Izuku tripped on his own footing. I was about to catch him when all of a sudden he began to float. Okay then. I looked over him to see a girl with short brown hair and brown big eyes. She was pretty. I stopped you with my quirk, she said as she giggled at him. What the F? I'm sorry I didn't ask first, but I figured you wouldn't mind me catching you, she said with this sickening sweet voice that made me want to barf. I looked at Izuku to see him staring at her with flushed cheeks. Okay, now I'm really gonna barf. I walked next to Izuku and that catched her attention. Oh hi. Are you a friend of his? She asked me and I nodded, not feeling like talking all of a sudden. Anyway, isn't this all like nerve-wracking? She asked. I nodded while Izuku tried to speak but failed. Well, I guess I'll see you guys inside. Bye, she said while walking away. Oh my god, I just talked to a girl. He whispered/yelled at me. First of all, you didn't actually talk to her, you just looked like an idiot. I told him and he blushed looking down at the ground. So cute. And secondly, you act as if you have never talked to a girl before. What the hell was that back there? I asked him with an angry look on my face. Well, you're different, okay? I've been knowing you since we were small kids, so it's easy to talk to you, but she is a girl that I have never met before, and not to mention she's pretty, he said while crossing his arms over his chest. Oh, so I'm not pretty? I asked, but then realized that I shouldn't have asked that as he made a surprised look, and then he smirked. Are you jealous F/N? He asked me while walking closer to me. I'm not okay. Just forget what I said, I said while walking away from him with a red face that I'm sure he noticed. I hope he doesn't ask about this when all of this is over. Time skip you. A high school hero course exam orientation. Izuku and I sat down listening to the voice hero known as Present Mic. I know that because Izuku is fanboying next to me while Bakugo is sitting next to him telling him to shut up, but still looking at Present Mic with a calm face. Weird, as it says in the application requirements, you listeners will be conducting 10-minute mock urban battles after this. Present Mic said. I wonder what the battles are gonna be like. I hope it's nothing too hard, but then again this is an exam and it's a superhero school, so of course it's going to be hard. You can bring whatever you want with you. After the presentation, you'll head to your specified battle centers. Present Mic said as I looked at my exam ticket that was in front of me. I see they're splitting us up so that we can't work with any of our friends. Bakugo said surprisingly calm as he looked over at Izuku's exam ticket. Yeah, you're right. Even though our examinee numbers are consecutive, we're assigned to different battle centers, Izuku said while looking at Baga's exam ticket. Get your eyes off my card. Damn, I was really looking forward to crushing you both, especially you Deku, Bakugo said, returning to his JRK mode. Izuku flinched and then looked at my card. So you and I are separated, huh? Izuku said, frowning. Izuku is in Battle Center B while I'm in Battle Center C and Bakugo is in Battle Center A. Yeah, I guess we are, I said, feeling nervous now. I was really hoping that Izuku and I could be work together in the exams, but I guess not. Alright then. 3 different types of foe villains are stationed in each battle center. Present Mic said, making me look up at the presentation as he showed us the villains that we would have to destroy and how many pints they are worth. He also said that we can't fight other examinee students, so now I don't have to worry about anyone using their powers on me to try to get me to lose. I sigh as I continue to listen to what Present Mic is saying. Apparently on the paper that was handed out to us there are 4 villains according to some kid who made a speech about reporting that mistake. Present Mic then said that the 4th villain isn't worth anything and that we need to avoid it at all cost. He said that if we come across with the 4th villain, to run away and try to get as far from it as possible. He also said that there's only one 4th villain so that we shouldn't worry. Okay, so I'm guessing some of you might be confused, correct? Well, let me elaborate. Those who are not confused, you may go on with the story. You are in Battle Center C, Izuku is in Battle Center B, Bakugo is in Battle Center A. Now as for the villains in the exam, their points are based on the level of how difficult they are. Villain number 1 is worth 1 point and there are a bunch of them. Villain number 2 is worth 2 points and there are also a bunch of them. Villain number 3 is worth 3 points and again, there's a bunch of them. Villain number 4 is worth 0 points and there's only one. Now that you understand, you may continue with the story. If you have any other questions, please comment here and I'll reply as soon as possible. I get it, this is kinda like a video game. I whispered to Izuku, who nodded in agreement. That's all I got for you today. I'll sign off with a little present, a sample of our school motto. The hero Napoleon Bonaparte once said, "A true hero is someone who overcomes life's misfortunes. Go beyond. Plus ultra." Present Mike finished saying with his hands in the air and the words, "plus ultra," behind him. I smiled as began to feel more confident about this. Some of this is easy and I can tell that some of these are going to be hard, so I have to be ready. Now everyone, good luck suffering, he said, and with that note we all got out to get into our gym clothes. Mine was a black sweater with a white shirt under and black leggings and my red high-top Converse. If you guys don't like any of that, you guys can change it. Once I was done changing and fixing my hair, I headed out with my group, but then stopped as I heard Izuku call my name. I just wanted to say good luck, and be careful please, he said as he looked at me with a concerned face. Same goes to you, and don't worry, I won't go over my limits, I replied as I gave him a hug and a kiss on the cheek and ran off. Before I left, I caught a glimpse of his red face and the small smile on his lips. Time skip battle center. See, well, this is it. Time to put my 10 months of training with all might to the test. I was standing in front of 2 huge doors that were closed. On the other side is the battle center that I and the rest of the people here will be fighting in. It looks like a city to me. Play the song in the media. As I waited for the doors to open, I looked around me and looked really closely at the people that I'm competing with. They all looked confident and some of them even had gears. Geez, they all look so strong and cool compared to me. Minutes later, Present Mike shouted to get ready from a pillar that he was standing on. On your marks, get set, run. Once he gave us the go to run, immediately ran in as fast as I could. The villains immediately came towards us from different directions and everyone quickly destroyed them. Crap, if I don't find myself a robot to destroy and get myself points, I'm gonna lose. I quickly took off the bracelet All Might told me to keep and put it in my pocket as I felt my power run through my body. Flashback to this morning at the beach. F/N, I want you to keep the bracelet, All Might said as he handed me the silver bracelet. Why? I asked him, confused. Because the power you have is new and powerful, and if you walk around with your powers exposed like that, everyone will feel it, including the villains. The villains will look for you and try to take away that power, and I nor the special police will let that happen. We can't let that happen. So wear it when you are not battling or training. You are only allowed to take it off when you battle and train. Understood? He said, and I nodded. Flashback over a few people stopped battling and stared at me as I ran. I smirked because of the surprised faces that they were making at the amount of power that was coming out of my body. All of a sudden I began to feel super excited as I started to spot robots and destroy as many as I can. So far I have 45 points as I continue to destroy villains here, and they're only using my super strength quirk mixed with my lightning quirk. As I ran and turned a corner, I stopped in my tracks at what was in front of me. It was a gigantic but robot who I'm guessing is villain number 4. It was exploding everything, causing cement to fall from broken buildings and smoke to come out. Now I understand why they made him 0 points, can crush and kill anyone who hasn't had any real training yet. I was about to run away when I heard a scream. I looked closely to see a girl trapped in a bunch of rubble. I then look up to the villain heading her way. As everyone that was by here ran away from the villain, I was debating whether or not to go and save the girl, but how? Everything was happening in slow motion. The only way to save her is if I destroy the villain. As the girl screamed again, I made up my mind. I ran as fast as I could as I thought about one quirk that can destroy this thing. And then it hit me, can use one for all. If I have every quirk in the world, then I'm positive I have All Might's quirk. I picked up speed as I felt some kind of energy on my feet that made me jump super high in the air. As I remembered what All Might said about yelling out that one word, I clenched my fist, which turned gold with red lightning, and punched the giant robot while yelling, Smosh! The robot exploded into a bunch of pieces and fell back to the ground, causing fire and robot parts to go flying everywhere. All Mights told Izuku and I that there was absolutely no merit in taking down that giant robot, but there is opportunity, a chance to show what we are really made of. I can feel everyone down below me stare at me, but I don't care. This just showed them what I can do. It was my time to shine, and everyone just saw what I did. I was falling quickly to the ground as I noticed that the hand I used to punch the robot is broken, and so is one of my legs. How am I not feeling pain right now? As I fell, I sucked in a deep breath and sent a gush of air to the ground, creating a giant tornado underneath me, making me fall slower and making the people that were around here go flying off. Oops, when I landed, I immediately fell to the ground, and that's where I began to feel pain. The pain was so intense that my vision got blurry and I could barely hear anything. I saw things moving around and I knew those were the rest of the people taking the exams, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. As I slowly lost consciousness, I wondered if All Might saw what I did. Wondered if Izuku was okay, if he passed or not, and with that final thought I blacked out. It's been a week since the exams. I'm currently at Izuku's house eating dinner with his mom and Izuku himself, but Izuku has been staring and smiling at a dead cooked fish ever since we started. Izuku. I started saying. No response. Snap out of it, Midoriya. I said, getting creeped out. And I can tell Izuku's mom is getting creeped out too. Eyes widening in shock, Izuku stopped smiling and looked up at us, an apologetic look in his face. I'm sorry, did you guys say something? He asked. I let out a sigh as I looked at him worriedly. After I woke up in the hospital, Izuku was on the bed next to mine, but he was unconscious. I asked the nurse what happened and she told me everything. I was surprised because what happened to him was the same thing that happened to me, except he had 0 points and I had 45. After hearing that, I quickly asked for the nurse to get present Mike. When he came in, I asked if I could give some of my points to Izuku, but he said I couldn't do that. After that day, I felt really bad. When Izuku woke up, he didn't have that natural shine in his eyes. He hadn't spoken to me or anyone else after that until right now. Why are you smiling at the fish? Should I be worried about that, honey? His mother asked worriedly. Sorry, no. I just spaced out for a minute, he said, and after a few more seconds he began to eat. When dinner was over, Izuku sat on the couch and looked at the wall with a depressed face. Walking towards him, I watched him close his eyes and breath out a sad sigh as I sat next to him. I know waiting for the results is terrible. His mother said from behind us. I guess, Izuku said while looking down at nothing. No matter what, I just want you to know I'm proud of you, and I think that you're really cool, sweetie. His mom said, smiling and trying to give him hope, to lighten up the mood even if it's just for a little, but it didn't work. Sure, he said and stayed silent after that. Well, I'm going to check the mail, okay? She said, putting on her slippers. Before she walked out, I immediately got up. I'll join you, Mrs. Midoriya, I said while walking away from Izuku, but not before saying goodbye to him and a see you later. He didn't respond back. Just looked at me and looked back down. As Mrs. Midoriya and I walked out to get the mail, I told her that I would be heading home to check on mine. She was about to tell me something, but she stopped talking as she looked at one of the mails that was sent to her house. It's from you. Oh my God, I said as she quickly said her goodbyes and went back inside yelling Izuku's name. I quickly ran to my house to check my mail, but I saw my mom already there staring at something with wide eyes. It's from you, eh? My mom said, looking at me with a huge smile. We both ran inside and opened the letter. When I opened it, a metal object came out of it and it projected All Might. All Might. But this is from you. Right? I yelled in surprise. My mom shushed me as All Might began to speak. He started talking about him being the new faculty member at U, which surprised me but also made me happy. He then talked about my actions in the exams, which he said he saw, and that made me even happier yet nervous. He said how proud he was of my work. He then talked about Izuku and what I did for him, which gave me 5 rescue points. I also got 60 points for rescuing the girl, which gave me a total of 65 rescue points. Yes. Apparently rescue points were a thing in the exams, but present Mike was to keep that a secret from all of us. I had 45 battle points and that got me to be in 3rd place. Which means I passed the exams. I'm gonna get to go to my dream school. After the projection was over, my mom and I were full out crying and hugging. After that moment, I told my mom I was gonna run Izuku's house to celebrate with him because during the projection, All Might informed me that Izuku also passed and is going to you. I barged in, the door already open, and ran to his room, passing by his mom that had a shocked look on her face. I opened the door to find Izuku in front of me with tears on his face too. My already wide smile got even wider if possible as I jumped on him and cried harder. Izuku, we passed. We're going to you, I yelled as I hugged him. He hugged me back as we both cried our eyes out. Minutes later, my mom came to Izuku's house too and began to talk to Mrs. Midoriya after she congratulated Izuku. Mrs. Midoriya gave me a hug as well and congratulated Izuku and I on making it. // time skip / it was now April and it was my first day of high school in U. I was headed to the door to get Izuku when my mother stopped me. Please be careful /Nan, please remember not to go past your limits with your new powers. I can't have you dying on me. She finished with tears coming out of her eyes. Ever since the doctors and All Might told her about my powers and what would happen if I go overboard, she's been worried and overprotective about me. I am now basically like a ticking bomb that could explode at any moment if I'm not too careful. I let out a sigh and hugged her, telling her I would be all right. Don't worry, Mother. All Might and Izuku will be there to help me if anything goes wrong, I said with a reassuring smile, and with that I opened the door. /N, Mother called me before I stepped out. I'm really proud of you, she said, a bright smile on her teary skin. Smiling back, I waved and walked off to the beginning of my high school journey. Izuku and I were now running in the halls of U, trying to find our class, which we thankfully had together. Once we found Class 1A, the class we would be in for these next 4 years, we walked in hoping to not be so late. Walking in, we were both welcomed with yelling. Lots and lots of yelling. A boy with dark blue hair yelled at Bakugo to put his feet down from the desk. During the argument between the two, I caught the dark-haired boy's name. 𝗕𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗄. Noticing that Izuku and I were at the door watching the commotion silently, everyone else in the class began to turn their attention towards us, making me extremely anxious. I did not like this. It's them, 𝗕𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗄 gasped as he paused his bickering with Bakugo, who also looked over at us in anger as he realized we would be sharing a class again. Unfortunately, everyone stared at us with awe except Bakugo, of course, who looked like he wanted to rip our heads off. Morning, Izuku said shyly. I just awkwardly stood by him, not saying a word. Good morning. I am from semi-private academy. My name is Dash, the blue-haired guy began to say, but I cut him off. 𝗕𝗂𝘁𝗐𝗐. We heard, I said, smiling as he stopped in front of Izuku and I. I can't be scared this time. We introduced ourselves to him and shook his hand. Midori, you realized there was something more to the practical exams, didn't you? Ida said. I had no idea I misjudged you, he said, bowing. I hate to admit it, but you're better than me. Confused as hell, I silently watched and listened. Sorry, I actually didn't realize anything, he. Izuku's sweat dropped and awkwardly laughed. Oh, that curly hair. You're the plane looking that tripped, someone said from behind us. I looked back to see the girl that saved Izuku from falling. Uraraka, was it? Yeah. Spacing out during their conversation, I was brought back out of it when I heard a male adult voice speak from behind me. Looking down, I try to keep my laugh in as I see a man with long black hair in a yellow sleeping bag. Who the hell is this guy? Why does he look familiar? Go somewhere else if you want to play at being friends. This is a hero course, he said while getting up and unzipping himself out of the sleeping bag and stepping into the now quiet classroom. Okay, it took 8 seconds before you were quiet. Time is limited. You kids are not rational enough, he said as he looked at all of us, annoyed written all over his face. Is he a pro? I mean, he looks worn out and like he hasn't slept for years. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Nice to meet you, he, boredom lacing his voice. Everyone was surprised, but I kinda saw this coming. It's kind of sudden, but put this on and go out into the fields immediately. I will meet you all there, he said, pulling out a gym uniforms and handing each of us one as we walked out to the locker rooms. This is already turning out to be a weird first day. // skip. A field // we were all outside facing Izuku as he explained what we were doing. A quirk assessment test. Everyone yelled as Izuku nodded. Apparently we are skipping the orientation and getting right into the good stuff because Izuku thinks orientation is a waste of time if we want to be heroes. He told us that what we are doing is like a physical exam except, now we can use our quirks, and if we come last then we would get expelled. That all of a sudden made me worried. 1, because of Izuku, and secondly because I can't fully control my powers yet. Looking over at Izuku, he had a terrified expression on his face. "You're gonna do fine," I whispered to him, not knowing what else to say to ease him up a bit. "I sure hope so," he said looking down. The test started out with a 50-meter dash. The first two to go up was Ida and this other girl who I learned is named 𝗬𝗓𝗎𝗓. After them was Uraraka and this other dude with a tail. After everyone went, it was my turn together with this guy that had half white and half red hair. So far Ida has the best score out of everyone, which is 3. For seconds. My competitive side, which the urge to beat that score, all of a sudden I felt some kind of power run through my legs as the little robot counted down from 5. As soon as it said go, my legs began to move on its own, and in a blink of an eye I was at the finish line. 1, 4 seconds. The robot announced, and all hell broke loose from there. What? Everyone yelled and looked at me with shock. Well, what the hell just happened? 7, 3 seconds. The little robot thing said, snapping me out of my shock and confusion. I looked back to see that it was the half-white, half-red-haired dude who finished. I looked at the teacher to see he had somewhat of a shocked expression, but it went away as soon as it came. "That was amazing F/N," Izuku said with sparkly eyes as he held my shoulder. Giggling, I thanked him, still confused as to how this all happened. The next test is grip strength. I gripped the metal thing and got 150 kilograms. Not bad, I think. "Hey Izuku, what did you get?" I asked, looking over at him. 56 kilograms, he said, disappointed with his number. "Wow. 540 kg. What are you, a gorilla? Or an octopus?" Some guy with black hair said to this buff 6-armed guy, basically drooling on him. Sheesh. The next test was a standing long jump. I had no idea how I was going to do this one. After this kid named 𝗬𝗓𝗎𝗓, when it was my turn, I thought of a quirk I could use and thought about flying powers. Deciding to go with that, I prepared myself to jump, and when I did I began to somewhat float, but then, as I got too excited, I lost focus and fell on my feet, falling on my butt right after as I lost my balance. Looking down to where I landed, I noticed I almost made the whole jump, but unfortunately I only made it a few inches before the end. Oh well. Getting up and brushing the sand off me, I made my way back to my fellow students who all had confused but shocked faces, making me blush and look down. Making my way to the back, I hoped that no one would ask questions right now. Knowing exactly why they were confused, I mentally slapped myself. Maybe I should have used just one quirk for today instead of different ones, but they were going to find out eventually, so why not? Moving on to the next test, we are now doing repeated side steps. Didn't put so much effort into that one, but I did good either way. I used speed. The next step was ball throwing. I was planning on using one for all for this one, but then remembered that Izuku has that quirk and it would be too weird if I used it, plus I'm not ready for that one, nor do I ever want to use it, I think, so I guess I'll use something else. Uraraka was up first and she got infinity. That's amazing and insane. I would use that quirk and get the same score, but to me that's cheating, so I would rather not. And also people would definitely ask questions, so yeah. No thanks. It was now Izuku's turn, and as he was getting ready to throw it I knew he was going to use one for all, but as he threw the ball, one for all failed. What the dash? I looked over at Izuku to see that it was him's the reason one for all didn't work. I knew I'd seen him from somewhere. Izuku is Eraserhead. The pro hero that can take away other people's quirks temporarily just by looking at them. Pulling Izuku closer with his scarf, Izuku whispered something to Izuku that none of us students couldn't catch, including me. After Izuku let him go and gave him his quirk back, Izuku grabbed the ball and walked back to the circle, his eyes hidden under his hair. What exactly did Izuku tell him? Talking to himself, he got into position to throw. Pulling back and he tried again, Only this time, he used 5% of 1 for all on the tip of his finger and shot the ball super high. Amazing, I said under my breath as I stared at the ball come back down. 705, 3 meters. Everyone yelled except me. I looked at Izuku and smiled. He's grown a lot in such a short time. I really am proud of him. He's becoming what he has always dreamed of being. A hero. Feeling someone's presence behind me, I saw All Might hiding behind a building with a proud look. I swear sometimes he could pass as Izuku's dad. After a few people went, it was now my turn. I decided to use wind manipulation. That should get the ball to go really high, right? Sucking as much air into my lungs, I threw the ball as high as I could, immediately releasing a bunch of air straight for it, creating what looked like a windstorm or a tornado, making the ball go even higher. So this happy face carrot minus the words that Wendy, the character in the video, says. When the ball landed back on the ground, I looked over at Mr. Izuku as he had a shocked written all over his face, this time not hiding it. He showed me my score and I got 800. 3 meters, which made my throw the second best out of everyone in the class. What the hell? First you use speed, then levitation, and now air manipulation. Just what is your quirk? This guy with blonde and a streak of black hair said, shocked out his mind. Literally. I don't really recall his name, but I do know his quirk is electricity. You are my quirk. I said, getting a little anxious with all of this attention, and I wish it would stop. 𝗕𝗃𝗁𝗍. I heard Mr. Izuku say. I looked at him to see him staring down at his phone. Your quirk, you're the student I was told about that has infinite amount of quirks. At least that's what it says on your records. He said, looking up at me with amusement. Her quirk is what? The class said except Izuku, who already knew, so he just stood to the side watching everyone lose their minds. Yeah. I have every quirk in the world, I began to say, looking down. They all looked at me in awe and utter shock, not believing a single word coming out of my mouth. But if I over-limit myself, I can die. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb. I told them, thinking I should have probably kept that last part to myself. Which is why you're in you. And in my class. I heard Mr. Izuku say. I looked up at him confused. I can help you control your powers and also be supervised and trained by not only All Might, but other pros that work here, but you're in my class because if you lose control I can simply just take away your quirks and put you to sleep. He said, which made my eyes wide. Okay, was the only thing I said, finding all of this information overwhelming and that last bit a bit terrifying. I looked at all of the students, minus Bakugo and Izuku, to find them all looking at me as if waiting for me to continue with more information and details about me and my powers. Letting out a shaky sigh, I said, I'll answer all of your questions later. And they all smiled at me kindly, making me a bit more relaxed than before. Maybe this won't be so bad after all. Even if I have a lot to learn, I'll focus on what I can do for now together with Izuku and everyone else. After that random test that Mr. Izuku gave us, we all gathered together to see in what place we were in. Alright, time to give you your results. I ranked you all from best to worst. You should probably have an idea as to where you are standing already. I'll just pull up the whole list. It's not worth going over each individual score. Mr. Izuku announced as he pulled up the scores on his hologram. I was worried about who would be last. I mean, today was our first day and the person who's last has to go home. I find that really unfair. As I looked at the hologram, I saw that I was in second, right under someone named Momo Yaoyorozu. Under me was Shoto Todoroki. I looked down to see who was last and my face fell when I saw who it was. Izuku Midoriya. I looked over at him to see him pale. Izuku, I felt horrible. He worked so hard to get here. This is so unfair. Right as I was about to walk towards Izuku to tell him a word or two of my own, he spoke. And I was lying, no one's going home. He said as he turned off the hologram. Silence. That was just a rational deception to make sure you guys gave it your all in the tests. Mr. Izuku said with a sickening smile. Are you serious? I yelled out along with everyone else. That 𝗵𝗃𝗫 playing with us. He scared the living CRP out of me, damn it. I tried to calm down by breathing in and out, and when I was calm I looked at Izuku to see his soul leaving his body. I'm surprised the rest of you didn't figure that out. Sorry, I guess I probably should have said something. A girl with black spiky hair said, laughing awkwardly. Yes. You should have. I said in my head as everyone glared at her except Izuku, who was still pale and trying to hang on to his poor soul. Welp, that's it, we're done for today. Pick up a syllabus in the classroom and read it over before tomorrow morning. Mr. Izuku said as he walked away. I heard Izuku sigh before me. I walked next to him and patted him on the back. Midoriya. Mr. Izuku called. We looked at him as he walked towards us. Take this and go have the old lady fix you up. Things are gonna be tougher tomorrow when your actual training begins. As for you L/N, I'm gonna make sure to go extra HRD on you. I knew there was something different about you. Maybe I should have read all of the students' information before class began instead of taking my nap. He said as he gave Izuku a pass to the nurse and walked away. Come on. I'll go to the nurse with you. I told Izuku as we made our way to the nurse's office. Well, we managed to make it through the first day on 𝗵𝗃. I said, wincing as I took a peek at his hurt finger. Still, it bothers me that I was in last place. I mean, there was so many things I failed. The only good score I got was on the ball throw. I'm starting out at the bottom, he said, looking down in shame. But that's a good thing, I told him with a smile. He looked at me confused. It's a good thing because then when you get to the top, everyone will see how much you grew from where you are right now. Even All Might will see, and all of the other pro heroes who teach here. I know you will make it, no doubt about that. We have 3 years here, so keep trying and don't give up. 'Cause heroes never give up. I said with a determined smile and a fist in the air. Izuku had wide eyes, but he smiled back at me and gave me a sudden hug. Thanks for everything and for always supporting me and being here. He began to say as he backed up and looked at me, making me blush a little. We made a promise when we were kids. I don't intend to break it anytime soon, or ever for that matter. So I promise I won't give up, he whispered as we stared into each other's eyes. I gave him a soft smile as he returned it, his cheeks a little red, which I found extremely cute. This is exactly why I fell in love with him, just so cute and sweet. Who wouldn't love someone like him? I began to blush more when I realized that his hands haven't left my waist. Izuku, can you let go now? I shyly asked, looking down. He looked down to where his hands are confused before quickly removing his hands away from my waist. Sorry, we should probably start walking to the nurse. My finger is beginning to hurt more. He said as I looked up at him to see him blushing even harder than before. So cute ///////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// we got to the nurse's office, Recovery Girl kissed his finger, which freaked him out at first, but then was amazed when the finger healed. Wow, thanks. That feels so much better. But he suddenly feel really tired. I need a nap, he said, which made me giggle a bit. Well, my quirk heals ya, but healing takes a lot of energy. It's not my fault, it's just how the body works, she said as she began to type things on her computer. A few moments later after that, we separated to go change out of our gym clothes and back into our normal uniforms. Ugh, I'm so tired I don't even want to walk home, Izuku complained as we walked out of school. I giggled, but then got scared when I felt a hand on my shoulder. I looked back to see it was just Ida. Hey there, Ida. Izuku grinned. Hey, how's the broken finger doing? Ida asked him as he checked out his finger. Oh, it's doing fine thanks to Recovery Girl, Izuku replied, and with that all three of us continued to walk towards the gates of the school. Before we took a step through the gates, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 called us to stop. Hey, wait up you guys, she yelled as she ran to us. Hey 𝗬𝗧𝗏. Good job on the test, I told her when she got to us. Thanks. You too. And you can just call me Ochako. We are friends now, so there's no need to be formal with me, she said, grabbing my hand and smiling at me. Blushing, I nodded and smiled back. Maybe she ain't as bad as I thought. Anyway, are you guys going to the station? May I join? She asked, and we all nodded, letting her join us. Oh, you're the Infinity Girl, Ida said. Yep, that's me. Ochako 𝗬𝗧𝗏. You must be Tenya, Ida, and you must be Deku, right? Midoriya, she asked. Pftaha. I began to laugh because she called him Deku, which is a name Bakugo makes fun of him with. Oh man, was that funny. Isn't that what Bakugo calls you? She said, looking confused. Well, my name's actually Izuku. That is what Kaken calls me to make fun of me. Izuku said, laughing awkwardly. Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. But you know what, I like Deku. It can make a great hero name. Plus I think it sounds kinda cute. She said cheerfully. She has a point there, I said after smiling after relaxing from that laugh. Deku it is, Izuku said suddenly with tomato-looking face. Just like that. Were you not saying that it was an insult? Ida said surprised, and Izuku began to mumble random 𝗧𝗃 again, which made me laugh once more. Ochako was confused, which made me laugh even harder. This is new. To have more friends, I mean. Usually I only talk to Izuku, but this is different. A good different. I like it. I survived my first day at you. And made new friends. What a day // time skip to the next day. / I'm currently sitting on my desk in English class trying not to fall asleep. Yes, we have normal classes here apparently, but only in the mornings. My first class is English followed by math, biology, and then history. After that it's 4 more periods on how to be a hero and training. Alrighty students. Which of these 4 sentences contains a mistake? Present Mike asked as he showed us the 4 sentences that he wrote on the board. Right, I forgot to mention he's out English teacher. Ugh, so boring, man. Hey everybody, look alive. Grammar rules. Present Mike enthusiastically yelled, making me groan as I let my head fall on the desk, not really caring for the pain that caused me. Hey, so annoying. I love Present Mike and all, but it's morning and no one wants to hear loud noises. It was now lunchtime. We eat lunch in the main cafeteria, which is huge, and we can buy pretty tasty stuff for cheap. The chef who makes our food is none other than the cook hero, Lunch Rush. His foods are so amazing. Makes me want to kidnap him and bring him home with me so he can cook for me every day and whenever I want. Just kidding, but seriously. Moments later it's finally time for afternoon classes, which means it's time for my favorite part, hero basic training. Which means 4 periods of learning about heroes and training and getting to use our powers. Currently we were in our homeroom class waiting for whoever is teaching us basic training to arrive. I was sitting on my desk talking to Izuku and some other people when I heard an all too familiar voice coming from the door. I am here. Coming through the door like a normal person. All Might happily and enthusiastically yelled out. Ah yes. He's teaching today. Everyone started to say super exciting stuff like, so he really is a teacher. Well, and this year's going to be totally awesome, and they aren't wrong. This year will be awesome, I just know it. Welcome to the most important class at U. Here you will learn the basics of being a pro. So, let's get into it. Today's lesson is battle. He announced and everyone got excited. Just fight training. Bakugo excitedly said, really? Combat? Izuku worriedly said under breath. But one of the keys of being a hero is looking good. These were designed for you based on your Quirk registration forms and the request you did before school started. All Might said, and that got me hyped. Ah man, I love this class. I love this school. I'm so hyper, I can't wait to start. Get yourself suited up, and then meet me at the training ground beta. All Might finished saying, and with that, we all went to change into our costumes. Once we were done changing, we walked through a dark tunnel that led to the training ground beta. At the end of the tunnel was All Might waiting for us. They say the pros make the clothes, young ladies and gentlemen, and behold, you are the proof. All Might said, a proud look on his face as he smiled at all of us. Once we made it out of the tunnel, I looked at everyone's costumes and they all looked really good. As I looked at all of their costumes, I was wondering what was taking Izuku so long. Take it to heart. From now on you are all heroes in training. All Might yelled cheerfully. I have never seen him this excited. Last time I saw him this excited was when Izuku and I completed our 10-month training with him. You all look so cool. Shall we get started, you bunch of newbies? He said, and as soon as he said that I heard footsteps coming from the tunnel. We all looked back to see that it's Izuku, and wow, let me say, he just looks super hot right now. When I looked up at his mask, I looked back at All Might and noticed how obvious of a fanboy Izuku is. I was trying so hard not to laugh. He makes it so obvious, All Might said as he stood next to me. I chuckled and nodded in agreement. Anyway, now that you're all ready, it's time for combat training. All Might announced. Sir, this is the fake city from our entrance exam. Does that mean that we will be conducting urban battles again? Ida said. I didn't know that was him under all that armor until he spoke. His costume is so cool. Nope. I'm going to move you 2 steps ahead. Most of the villain fights you see on the news takes place outside. However, statistically speaking, some of the encounters with smarter evildoers takes place indoors. Think about it, home invasions, secret underground layers, etc. Truly intelligent villains stay hidden in the shadows. For this training exercise, you'll be split into teams. One team will be heroes, the other will be villains. You will fight 2-on-2 indoor battles. All Might explain. Isn't this a little advanced? I asked under my breath. The best training is what you get on the battlefield. But remember, you aren't punching robots this time. You're dealing with actual people now. All Might said seriously. Then people began to throw him questions which made him sweat drop. I wasn't finished talking. All Might said, clearly getting annoyed with all of the questions. Listen up. He said, opening a small book that I'm guessing is a script. The situation is this. The villains have hidden a nuclear weapon somewhere in their hideout. The heroes must try to fail their plans. To do that, the good guys will have to catch the villains or recover the weapon. Likewise, the bad guys succeed if they protect their nuclear weapon or capture the heroes. He explained. To me it sounds like an action movie setup. Time's limited and we will choose teams by drawing lots. There are 21 of you. Which means one of you isn't going to battle today and will just watch for now. All Might explained. Isn't there a better way than drawing lots? Ida asked, confused. Think about it, pros often have to team up with heroes from other agencies right on the spot. So maybe that's the reason we're seeing that here. Izuku explained to him. Yes, I see. Life is a random series of events. Excuse my rudeness. Ida apologized, bowing to All Might in respect. No sweat. Let's draw. He said as he named who were going to be partners. Team A, Izuku Midoriya with Ochako Uraraka. Team B, Mizo Shoji with Shoto Todoroki. Team C, Minoru Mineta with Momo Yaoyorozu. Team D, Katsuki Bakugo with Tenya Ida. Team E, Mina Ashido with Yuga Aoyama. Team F, Rikido Sato with Koji Koda. Team G, Denki Kaminari with Kyoka Jiro. Team H, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 Tokoyami with Tsuyu Azui. Team I, Mashareo Ijiro with Toru Hagakure. Team J, Mantis Zero with Ijiro Kirishima. Wow, what are the chances? We're a team. Uraraka yelled, happy she got paired up with a friend, which is Izuku. Y/N, All Might called. I said, walking up to him as he pulled me aside. Remember when I said that there are 21 students, which means one isn't going to battle today and will just watch for now? All Might asked and I nodded. Well, that's a lie. You, my friend, are going to be a surprise. All Might said quietly, making my eyes go wide in shock. Wait, what? I asked, confused. Let me explain. So for each round, you're going to help one of the teams. You have the choice to choose to be a villain or a hero. Your job is to help out the team you picked without letting none of them know or any of the watchers know. Here, it's a bracelet that lets you turn invisible. I know you probably have a quirk that lets you do that, but I figured that you don't know how to control it yet. If the bracelet comes off by accident during battles, then don't worry. The computers are programmed to not see you, so as long as you wear this green necklace, so you'll be invisible to the watchers. Also, if by any chance you lose your bracelet and the teams see you, then after or during the battle just tell them that I know and that you're a surprise, so to keep quiet about you once their turn is over. He said, handing me a blue and silver bracelet along with the green necklace. Alright, but if no one can know I'm a surprise, then what are you gonna tell them? I asked, looking towards my classmates. When we walk back, act sick. I'll give you a fake pass to the nurse for you to get dismissed, and I will tell everyone that you're leaving cause you're suddenly sick. All you're gonna do after is go through the tunnel, put the bracelet and necklace on, then come back and go in the building through the windows and hide in a room until the battle starts. Understand? All Might explained and I nodded. When we walked back to the class, I started to fake cough. All Might, can I get a pass to the nurse? I'm not feeling so good. I said, putting my hand on my forehead, pretending to have a headache. Sure thing, kiddo, he said, handing me a pass. I slowly walked to the tunnel but got stopped by Izuku. 𝗵/, are you okay? You want me to go with you? He asked with a worried look on his face. 𝗵 okay, I just need to go to the nurse and get some painkillers and maybe take a nap. Okay, really? I told him as I faked cough again and smiled at him. I hate lying to him, but I have to. Alright, I'll go get you after school and bring you home, okay? He said, smiling, and with that I continued to walk into the tunnel. Once I made sure that they can barely see me, I put on the bracelet and began to walk back to where everyone is. When I made it outside, I decided to test this bracelet. I got in front of Izuku and started to wave my arms, making sure to have some distance. He didn't see me. I walked to All Might, who was about to draw out what team was going first from 2 boxes labeled villains and heroes. The first team to fight will be Team D, and Team D are villains and Team A are heroes. He announced. Team D is Bakugo and Iida and Team A is Izuku and 𝗬𝗧𝗏. This will be the first time Izuku fights with Bakugo. I'm worried. Well, at least I know what side I'm gonna be on for this battle. I said in my head as I walked in the building where the battles would take place. There are 5 floors, so I'm gonna stick around the 2nd floor just in case. I know that the weapon is on the 5th floor, but I also know that Bakugo is gonna come for Izuku. I began to hear dings and saw that the elevator was being used. That must be Iida and Bakugo heading to the 5th floor. I looked out the window that was near me and saw Izuku and 𝗬𝗧𝗏 looking at papers. I'm guessing those are the floor plans. I looked at Izuku and saw him sweating through his costume. He must be nervous and scared, knowing that he will have to probably fight Bakugo. I mean, even I am scared. That guy's a psycho. Alright, your time starts now. I heard All Might say through the speakers. I started to roam the hallways looking for Izuku and 𝗬𝗧𝗏 so that I can be close to them just in case anything happens. I would find them quicker if this place didn't look like a goddamn maze though. As I kept walking, I heard a loud explosion nearby. Running towards the sound, I turned a corner and saw that it was Bakugo. Looking down at the ground, I spot Izuku and 𝗬𝗧𝗏 groaning and trying to get up. Running towards them as quietly as I could, I stood by them waiting for Bakugo's next attack. Looking towards them to see if they got hurt, I noticed Izuku's mask, which was half burnt. I didn't worry much since his face still looked fine. 𝗬𝗧𝗏, are you okay? Izuku asked as he finally got up. I'm fine, thanks. Deku, your dash, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 said, worried as she noticed his mask. It's just my mask, he said, taking it off as the smoke cleared. What's the matter, Deku? Afraid to stand up and fight me? Bakugo said, getting ready to attack again. I have no idea when I'm supposed to help Izuku. I don't want to help him at all, only because he would think of this as cheating, and he would be mad at me for helping. It pains me to say this, but Izuku is all on his own for this one. My task is to help or protect 𝗬𝗧𝗏 from here on out. I have faith that Izuku will be fine on his own. He's strong and smart, so he won't do anything careless. I'll only help him if it looks extremely bad. I'll stick around him though until later. I will help 𝗬𝗧𝗏 later on. I know Iida won't hurt her or fight her. He will mostly try to get her away from the weapon without hurting anyone or try to trap her. So once I get her safely upstairs, I will just stick by Izuku just in case Bakugo goes too far. I knew you'd come at me first. I figured you'd try to catch me by surprise. Izuku said, his voice a little shaky while he glared at Bakugo. For some reason, Izuku looking like this makes me shiver. I don't know why. I won't hurt you so bad that they will have to stop the fight. Just close. Bakugo yelled out as he ran to attack Izuku, but his attack got stopped when Izuku grabbed his arm and flipped him over, slamming him onto the ground, leaving me wide-eyed. Take that, but can you usually start with a big right swing? I know because I've watched you for years. Izuku said, out of breath. I analyzed every amazing hero, even you. I wanted to learn everything I could. It was all in the notebook you burned and threw away. Izuku said with a serious and deep tone while Bakugo sat up and glared at him. You can call me Deku, but I'm not the same helpless, defenseless kid anymore, you hear me? I've changed. From now on, Deku is a name of a hero. Izuku said, making my heart skip beats as I stared at him proudly. Izuku, I whispered low enough so no one can hear. All Might must be really proud of him now. This guy standing in front of 𝗵𝗃 grew so much in so little time. But everything he said is right, which is why I won't get in his way. But if 𝗵𝗃𝗲 goes too far, I'm sorry Izuku, but I'm gonna kick 𝗵𝗃𝗲's butt for hurting you. I can hear Ida trying to communicate with 𝗵𝗃𝗲, but he keeps shutting Ida out. Just shut up and defend the weapon. I have more important things to worry about. He told him as he got into a fighting stance again. Uraraka go. Izuku yelled out as soon as 𝗵𝗃𝗲 attacked. Izuku blocked his attack again. False move. Think you can fight me alone. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 yelled out, but Izuku began to wrap some kind of white tape around him. I remember that. If you wrap the white tape around an opponent, then that means they're out for the rest of the game. Izuku was too slow to wrap the tape around 𝗵𝗃𝗲 as he tried to punch Izuku, but he dodged before 𝗵𝗃𝗲 could use his powers on him. Wow, his fanboy knowledge is paying off. That move he was doing caught that from Mr. Aizawa when he tried to stop 𝗵𝗃𝗲 from hitting Izuku during the test he gave us. Unfortunately, now that 𝗵𝗃𝗲 knows about Izuku's knowledge on him, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 will probably try to SW's things up, which means I have to be ready to step in at any time. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 isn't but idiot. Never. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was about to attack, but suddenly, Izuku ran away out of nowhere, leaving 𝗵𝗃𝗲 and I confused. Realizing 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was about to run after him, I tripped him before he could even take a step. What the dash? He yelled as he fell face first. As I ran behind Izuku, I tried to contain my laughter. I was having way too much fun with this. Not paying attention as to where I was going, I accidentally bumped into Izuku, causing my bracelet to fall off. Fun's over. What? 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗃. What are you doing in here? I thought you dash. I put my hands over his mouth so that he would shut up as he was being too loud. Grabbing his hand, I explained everything to him as we continued to run from 𝗵𝗃𝗲, trying to find a spot to hide. Which I see. So you've been watching this whole time? He asked me and I nodded. I wanted to help you earlier when you were fighting with 𝗵𝗃𝗲, but you handled it well without me, so I didn't get in your way. I told him, looking down as we stopped to take a breather. Thank 𝗧, he said, but I interrupted him. But if things go too far, I will get in between you two whether you like it or not. I told him with a serious tone. But 𝗧/N-? No, I told him, interrupting him again now with tears in my eyes. I can't risk you getting hurt. I wouldn't be able to forgive myself if you got hurt, and I just stood there to the side watching and not doing anything about I just can't. I love you too much to let that happen. Even if this is a battle test, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 is a psycho. He would do anything to hurt you, Izuku, and I can't dash. I was cut short when I felt something soft and warm on my lips. I knew I said the L word, but I didn't know that by saying it, that Izuku Midoriya, my best friend since childhood, would kiss me. I slowly closed my eyes and kissed him back as I felt his hands softly touch my cheeks. When we pulled away, I looked at him and blushed, not knowing what to say. Why did you? I couldn't finish asking him. I could barely speak. Because I love you too, you idiot. You care about me way too much, so that's my thanks to you. But for me, please don't get in between the fight. You have to trust me. He said, holding my face in his warm hands. I hesitated, but I nodded, looking down afterwards. Hey, I'll be okay. I promise. He said, kissing my forehead and helping me get up. If it makes you feel better, I'll let you help me a little. He said, smiling at me as I looked up and smiled at the idea, nodding to signal an okay. And also after this, I need to talk to you about 𝗲𝗃𝗃. He said, blushing a little, making me blush too, but I nodded again nonetheless as we gave each other shy smiles. Izuku gave me back my bracelet and I put it on, deactivating my quirk and turning invisible again with the bracelet. Grabbing my hand, we began to walk again until we came face to face with 𝗵𝗃𝗲. His right grenade hand glowed red all of a sudden, making me extremely nervous. You don't tell me, I'm all loaded up, he growled as he raised his right hand. What does that mean? Izuku said, confused. Why aren't you using your fancy quirk on me? Don't tell me you're underestimating me, Deku. Get over here and show me what you're really made of. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 yelled out with a sickening smirk. Izuku gripped the white tape and glared at 𝗵𝗃𝗲 as he let go of my hand. Don't do anything until I tell you to, got it? He whispered, not looking at me. Heh, I whispered as I backed up a little. I'm not scared of you anymore. Izuku bravely said, but that seems to make 𝗵𝗃𝗲 more angrier. But no, his smirk just got even wider. SHT, that isn't a good sign. What the F are you doing, Izuku? Since you're such a stalker by now, you should know how my quirk explosion works. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said, pointing his right grenade hands towards Izuku, which signaled red lights for me. Not good, not good. My quirk lets me store nitroglycerin like sweat from the sweat glands on the palm of my hands, and then makes it explode. Imagine what I could do if I had a lot of it. He growled as he slowly pulled on the silver ring on his grenade. That's right, these gauntlets aren't just for show. They've been storing up my sweat inside for one monster blast. He yelled out, still holding the silver hook. IF knew that BSTRD had something up his sleeve. All Might has no choice but to stop this now that he knows about that. I turned on my earpiece that he gave me so that I can hear his orders. Young 𝗵𝗃𝗲, don't do it. You'll kill him. He yelled as I began to see fire coming out of the grenade on his right hand. Oh no. I began to run towards Izuku, but I don't know if I'll be able to make it. Everything was going in slow motion, my heartbeat being the only thing I hear as I tried to run faster. A sudden sapphire-colored blue glow appeared on my hand, which I didn't pay much mind to. He'll be fine as long as he dodges. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 yelled as he took out the hook. And there it was, Bakugo Katsuki's huge monster explosion. No! I yelled as I got in front of Izuku, a giant blue shield appearing right in front of us, shielding us from most of the explosion. Ah! Izuku and I yelled as the explosion made us fly back, breaking my shield during the process. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗫, the explosion was too strong. We barely almost made it out alive. Looking behind me as the smoke began to clear, I saw that the explosion made a hole on the wall of the building, breaking the windows and making the whole building shake. Uraraka must be having trouble touching that weapon. She better have a plan to deactivate it, and quick, before more damage gets done. Midoriya. Midoriya, can you hear me? I heard All Might say in the earpiece, worry evident in his tone. I looked around and saw Izuku next to me, a few scratches and burn marks here and there, but nothing serious, thank goodness. His costume got a bit burnt as well. I looked at my costume and saw that it was mostly burn off as well, but not that much. Looking down, I saw my bracelet broke, which means that I'm now exposed to 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Is that even allowed? Izuku winced as he slowly got up, helping me up. I don't think so. I coughed as smoke still lingered. Well, looks like 𝗧/N joined the party. I knew there was something tricky going on. I don't just fall face first on purpose. I'm not a clumsy idiot like you. Also, that shield gave it away, but I guess that wasn't strong enough to protect you weaklings from my great explosion. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 loudly said as he walked towards us through the smoke, his left grenade arm turned red, meaning that one is full too and ready to be used. On instinct, my hand began to glow blue again as I cursed, a million things running through my head right now as I hoped Uraraka would hurry and end this. Now come on. Use your stupid quirk on me, Deku. Unless you want to let your girlfriend here protect your weak butt again. Even if you give me everything you've got. Both of you will never beat me. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 yelled as he smirked. I looked at Izuku to see the fear on his face. What's the matter? You look scared, Deku. You both dodged the attack, so you can still fight, can't you? Come and get me. Doesn't matter who, I'll beat the both of you. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 continued to yell, a crazy look in his eyes. I've never seen 𝗵𝗃𝗲 like this. Can someone like him really be a hero? We aren't safe even if we stay away from him, so what's your plan? I said in a low voice so only Izuku can hear. I don't know, but I'll come up with something. Izuku said, turning on his earpiece. Uraraka, come in. What's the situation? He asked as we hoped to hear good news. Unfortunately, luck isn't on our side right now. It's not good. She yelled through the earpiece. 𝗕𝗫𝗁, maybe I should have gone and helped her. Maybe if I did, this whole thing would be over by now. Are you ignoring me again? Fine. I'll get your attention. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 yelled out as he raised his left hand this time. 𝗵𝗃𝗲, use that stored up weapon again and I'll stop this fight. Your team will lose. All Might warned through the earpiece. Maybe now 𝗵𝗃𝗲 will go a little easy. What? He yelled, clearly mad at All Might. To attack at such a large scale inside is inviting the destruction of the stronghold you should be protecting. That's poor strategy whether you're a hero or a villain. The penalty will be a massive loss of points. All Might threatened, making 𝗵𝗃𝗲 angrier at the situation. Go to the pillar by the windows. Over and out. Izuku quickly said to 𝗬𝗧𝗏. Did he even hear what All Might was saying? Not that he needed to, but still. Fine then. We'll fight hand to hand. Bakugo growled, coming towards us at full force. SHT, we can't dodge this. All of a sudden I'm being pushed out of the way. I looked back to see Bakugo behind Izuku, sending an explosion on his back and making him fly forward. Izuku managed to stay on his feet, but then, here it comes, nerd. The famous right hook you were writing about. Bakugo yelled as he swung at Izuku, making him yell out in pain. CD, I gotta do something and fast, but Izuku told me not to get in his way unless told to. Don't you ever forget what you are, Bakugo yelled out as I helplessly watched him grab Izuku's elbow and slam him on the ground. You're a weakling. Just like your good excuse for a girlfriend. Bakugo continued to say as tears began to flow down my face. That's it. Izuku. I yelled, getting up. I can't watch this go on. I don't know why All Might hasn't ended this already. I'm fine. Izuku yelled out as he got up, making me stop before I could even get far. He's lying. He's lying so that I don't get in the fight. Watching Izuku run the opposite direction as me, I tilted my head in confusion. What the hell is he doing? Does he have a plan? Izuku stopped on the wall opposite of me. Why won't you use your DMN quirk against me? Still think you can stop me without it? How about your girlfriend, can she use it too? Bakugo said between his teeth as glared at me. You leave her out of this. This is between you and me. Izuku yelled, making Bakugo face him again. Then answer me, Do you think you can stop me without your F quirk? Bakugo asked. That's not it, Izuku began to say through his teeth as he glared at Bakugo. You've been hiding your true power for years. You and Y/N. What's the deal, huh? Did you two think you were better than me this entire time? Bakugo yelled. He was raging at this point. I just stood frozen, waiting to see what Izuku would do in this situation, but his next words shocked me. That's what you think? You idiot. You've always been stronger, Kaken. I know that you're better than me. Izuku yelled with tears in his eyes. Can't you see? That's why I want to beat you without the help of Y/N or anyone. Because you're amazing. He finished saying as he clenched his fist, activating One for All. You're even more of an idiot than I realized. Bakugo growled as they both charged at each other at the same time. This is getting out of hand. Detroit, Izuku began to say as he ran full force. They're gonna kill each other. All Might, stop this. I yelled into the earpiece, but he didn't respond. I was gonna get in between to stop it myself when I heard All Might. Both of you 𝗬𝗧𝗏 now. Izuku yelled out, interrupting All Might as he punched upwards with his right hand and used the other one to block out Bakugo's explosion attack, smash. Bakugo's eyes turned into saucers when a huge gush of wind was created, caused by Izuku's punch, creating a big hole on top of them, making me now realize the situation. He knew that the weapon and 𝗬𝗧𝗏 and Ida were on top of us, so he used One for All so that 𝗬𝗧𝗏 would then have a better chance to touch the weapon and use the debris to distract Ida. Izuku knew that we wouldn't win this by battling with Bakugo alone, so he left the winning to 𝗬𝗧𝗏, who actually had a better chance. I closed my eyes as I was blocked my face, trying to hold back the strong wind. After everything calmed down, I opened my eyes to see shocked Bakugo and an injured Izuku. This was your big plan from the very beginning, wasn't it? You were playing me this entire time, you bastard. Bakugo yelled, not believing that he got defeated. I wasn't going to use it because I can't control it, Izuku said, trying to talk through the pain. I began to slowly walk towards them with fresh new tears coming out of my eyes again. My body just can't handle the backlash of my P power yet, Mr. Aizawa said I'd be useless, but this was all that I could think of doing without the help of F/N, Izuku whispered as Bakugo's eyes widened. Didn't you notice? She didn't fight at all this whole time because I told her not to for me. He finished saying, a painful smile on his face as tears began to flow out of his eyes. Izuku, I cried as I stopped a few inches away from him. That strategy, that was the only way I had any chance of winning, Izuku finished saying as Bakugo still stood in the same spot, his eyes still wide and filled with confusion as he still hadn't processed what just happened. A buzz echoed through the whole building, meaning that time was up. Izuku and Uraraka won just in time. Quickly walking behind Izuku, I caught him just as he released a relieved sigh and fell. Sitting on the ground, I hugged him gently as I sobbed. "You did it, Izuku won," I whispered in his ears as he completely lost consciousness. "The hero team wins." All Might yelled through the earpiece, sounding as proud as ever yet worried. After the battle, Izuku was immediately brought to the nurse's office. I wanted to stay with him, but All Might told me to stay back and keep battling, as I would only be in the way and in the waiting room doing nothing but wait anyway. Flashback, 𝗓𝗏𝗵𝗃, I'm gonna need to stay here with the rest of the class. All Might told me as I watched the mini robots take Izuku away to the infirmary. It's not really a surprise that I'm here anymore. Everyone knows, I sniffed, looking down as I wiped away the remaining tears from my face. Yes, everyone does know now, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna stop. I'm gonna add another choice for you. You can be on the hero's side or on the villain's side or on no one's side. He told me. What do I do if I'm on no one's side? I asked him as he handed me original a gym clothes to change into since my costume got kinda ruined. You can see how they battle, memorize their quirks and how they work. That way when you go see young Midoriya, you can tell him everything and at the same time serve you as a lesson for your powers. But if you choose to watch, then you can't get involved in the battle. Just keep that in mind. Now come. There's a bathroom in the monitor room you can use to change. All Might patting my shoulder while offering me one of his famous smiles. Young Midoriya will be okay, I promise. You can see him after the battles are over, he said, making me smile and nod. And with that, we walked off together with Bakugo, who was silent during our conversation. Flashback over, All Might gave all of us a new map to a new building. This building was called Battle Building B. The teams that are going in are Team B, which is Todoroki and Shoji, who are the heroes, and Team I, who is Ijiro and Hagakure, who are the villains. I decided to watch for this round and stayed in the monitor room. I watched as Shoji turned one of his 6 arms into an ear. He then turned a different arm into a mouth and began to speak to Todoroki, but I couldn't hear anything. Todoroki then spoke and walked towards the wall. I catched Shoji go back outside and I was confused why, until I saw Todoroki freeze the whole building. We were in the basement, so now it was freezing cold here but not frozen. Putting my now cold hands into my pockets, I looked at another monitor, observing the villains to see that their feet are completely frozen in their spots. I then saw Todoroki go inside the room where the villains were, and walked past both of them to then touch the weapon, meaning he and Shoji won. He then melted the ice around the whole building using heat, which apparently he has as a second quirk. I get the feeling there's more that quirk than just using it to melt ice. But I want to ask him. Taking my hands out of my pockets, I let out a relieved sigh as the monitor room warmed down. Okay, so Shoji's quirk is 𝗵𝗄𝗏, and Todoroki's quirk is half cold, half hot. Hagakure is just permanently invisible, and Ijiro just has a tail. The next team to go is Team J, Siro and Kirishima, who are the villains, and the heroes are Team H, Tokoyami and Azui. I decide to watch again. I'm not lazy, I really do want to battle and all, but I'm too worried about Izuku. I want to go see him instead of being here. I want to know how he's doing and if he's okay. But I'm doing this for him nonetheless. The battles went on, and in all of them I just watched. At one point, All Might told me that I should pick a team and go out there, but I told him I didn't feel well enough to battle. With a sad smile, he let it slide and let me watch the battles in peace. I forgot to mention that when I put on my gym clothes, I also slipped on the anti-quirk bracelet All Might gave me, so that I can rest from my powers for a little. Even when I'm not using my powers, I can still feel it, and for some reason I get extremely tired and weak, as if my powers were feeding off my energy without me using them, or even when I'm not doing anything. It's weird, but I hope I can get used to all this power at some point. Anyway, All Might let us all go after the battles were over, and now I'm in the girls' locker room putting my normal uniform on. The girls quiet as if they felt my sadness and worry. Once I finished putting on my school shoes and getting ready, I ran out as quick as I could to the nurse's office. Quietly barging in, I saw All Might already here, sitting there in his weak form with Recovery Girl and Izuku, who laid in bed with bandages wrapped around both his arms. How is Izuku doing? I asked, not caring which one of them answers the question. He's doing fine. He just needs lots of rest. Recovery girl answered, letting a frustrated sigh. Anyway, after the IV is finished, we are going to have to wait until he heals properly on his own. My quirk can't just heal all of his injuries at once, you know. Come on, All Might, I know you passed on your powers to this boy, but you can't spoil him, she said, annoyed. I'm trying not to play favorites. I wanted to consider his feelings though. He needed to see that he was capable of winning the exercise. Oh yeah, also will you please not talk so loudly about One for All when anyone around you could hear? All Might whispered/yelled at her. Yeah, I know. Mr. Natural Born Hero. Mr. Symbol of Peace. Recovery girl said sarcastically as she went to type some things into her computer. They asked me to exit for a moment so that they can discuss about something after that. Moments later, All Might came out and said I could go back in. Izuku looked so weak. I didn't like seeing him in a hospital bed. What will happen to him if his powers keep breaking his body like this? Recovery girl can't help him forever. Time skip. I was in class, just sitting on my desk, my head resting on my hands as I stared outside the slightly opened window, the breeze hitting me once in a while making me relaxed while everyone else talked to each other about random stuff. We only had 30 minutes till 𝗕𝗵𝗃 since we finished All Might's exercise early. Closing my eyes, I breathed in slowly, trying to calm myself down a bit more as I heard the door open. Curious as to who it was, I lazily turned my head towards the door. When I saw who it was, I instantly stood up, regretting it after as everything in the room began to spin a little. Grabbing my head, I closed my eyes for a second and opened them again to see everyone gathered around the very person who stayed on my mind all day. Izuku. Everyone complimented him on how awesome he was and how cool he looked during the battle. They all told their names to him too. As Ida began to argue with Tokoyami, I just stared at Izuku, who awkwardly laughed, until we finally made eye contact. When he softly smiled at me, I began to blush as I looked down. I was getting dizzy again. 𝗬𝗵𝗲, what do I say? Does he even remember the kiss? Hey F/n, Izuku greeted me, a soft tone as he stood in front of me. Really close to me. 𝗕𝗵𝗄, how are you feeling? I asked as I fiddled with my fingers, still not looking at him. 𝗵𝗃, are you okay? He asked me, putting a gentle hand on my chin and raising my head up so I could look at him. If it wasn't for the nice breeze coming in through the window, I probably would have fainted from how hot it is in here. I'm fine. I just maybe he did forget. Is this about the kiss? He asked, smirking at me. If this is how I die. He didn't forget. Oh my god. What do I say? I can't speak as my face turned tomato red. You're so cute. He chuckled as he patted my head. We'll talk more about this later, but have you seen Kaken? I need to speak with him. He asked me, looking at Bakugo's empty desk. We tried to stop him from leaving, but he wouldn't listen. Just missed him. But you might catch up to him if you run. Uraraka said, pointing out the window. He ran out and I looked out the window just in time to see Bakugo coming out of school, and seconds later I saw Izuku. They were just talking until Bakugo started to yell, I think. I decided to go outside, scared Bakugo will do something again. But just as I walked out, there stood All Might talking to Bakugo a few feet away from where Izuku was standing. I walked next to Izuku and asked him what happened, and he told me he would explain later as he let out a sigh. Midoriya, what were you saying to Bakugo before I arrived so heroically? All Might asked as he stood next to Izuku. Nothing special. Izuku said, freaking out as he tried to pull his best normal look. 𝗕𝗃𝗁, a terrible liar. I'm so curious. Why don't you tell me all the juicy details? All Might insisted humorously, and by now I'm already a giggling mess. Actually, I kinda forgot. Izuku said, smiling nervously, and I couldn't hold it any longer. After school ended, Izuku and I successfully dodged All Might's questions as we made up an excuse to leave. Moments later, Izuku and I are walking home together in silence, my mind only repeating drifting the moment Izuku and I had in the indoor battle test. I felt my face becoming red as the memory of him kissing me came up in my mind once more. I then remembered that he said he loved me. Maybe I should ask him about that. I'm impatient, 𝗬𝗵𝗄. Hey Izuku. I said, looking down as I gathered all my courage. Did you really mean everything you said? In the indoor battle test, I mean. I asked and looked up to be met with his green eyes as we stopped walking. We were now standing 2 houses away from both of our homes. What part exactly? He asked, confused. The part where you said why you loved me too after you kissed me, I said, my voice becoming quieter at the end. I probably looked like a cherry by now. He gave me a sweet smile, his eyes soft as he grabbed my hands, pulling me closer to him. His face was only a few inches away from mine. Oh God, of course I meant it. You have no idea how long I have been wanting to tell you that. He said with a sad look in his eyes. Why didn't you? I asked, shocked and confused. I was afraid that you wouldn't like me back because of how much of a loser I was. I was afraid you would reject me and friend zone me. I really like you a lot and I didn't want to lose you as a friend or make our friendship awkward, so I just kept my mouth shut this whole time. He said, looking away from me. Cooing at how cute he was being, I kissed his cheek, making him look at me, his cheeks beginning to turn an appealing shade of pink. I like you too, Izuku. I smiled, my tone soft. He smiled too and brought his face close to mine, kissing me for the second time. It was a sweet kiss and it felt the same yet different from the first. Slowly pulling away, we looked into each other's eyes. I then giggled because Izuku looked so cute with a flushed face. Why are you giggling? He asked, his smile only getting wider. Because you look cute when you blush. I said, giggling again when his face got more red. Shut up and come back here. He said, rolling his eyes as he pulled me again for another kiss. After a few minutes we pulled away, and he looked at me with so much love that I felt like I was dreaming. We were on cloud 9. So, do you want to be my girlfriend? He asked me with hope now in his eyes. I would love to, I said with the biggest smile on my face as he hugged me and happily kissed me all over my face, making laugh. Walking home hand in hand, I hoped with all my heart as I watched the sun go down that we stay happy like this forever. This morning Izuku and I walked hand in hand to school. I'm so happy that we're a couple now. We are not keeping it a secret either, cause we wouldn't like that. But anyway, when we arrived to school there were reporters everywhere asking us and some other students on how it feels to be taught by the symbol of peace himself, All Might, but of course Izuku made an excuse that we had to go to the nurse, and we escaped successfully and decided to just take a walk down the halls and talk about random stuff until class starts. And class starts now. Nice work on yesterday's combat guy. I saw the video feeds and went over each of your team's results, including the special surprise result, he said, looking at me in the end. Oh great. My results were probably horrible. I hope he doesn't say anything to me about it. Bakugo, you're talented, so don't sulk like a child about your loss, okay? Mr. Izuku said. 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗧. Yeah, whatever. Bakugo said, looking out the window after. Midoriya, I see the only way you won the match was by messing up your arm again and gaining some help from the special surprise, which was F/N. Work harder and don't give me that stupid excuse that you don't have control over your quirk. That line's already getting old. You can't keep breaking your body while training here. But your quirk will be very useful if you can get a handle on it. So show a little urgency, huh? He finished and I looked at Izuku to see him with a smile and a determined face. Right. He answered back. And last but not least F/N. Mr. Izuku said, looking at me now. Great. I took off the effects on the video so that I would see your every move, and I must say, it was a really entertaining video to watch. Looked almost like a movie. He said, smirking at me. Oh, not that means he saw me and Izuku kiss. The way you tripped Bakugo so that Midoriya would have more time to run was smart. Also, that blue giant shield you pulled out when Bakugo almost killed you and Midoriya was flawless, although you need to work on strengthening it more so it will last. Now my favorite part of the whole video was when you and Midoriya were alone and you 2K- don't. I yelled and stood up before he spilled out the word. I then realized that I made everyone in the room stare at me in shock and confusion except Izuku, who was red all over. My face began to turn red too, so I silently sat down. Mr. Izuku just chuckled and cleared his throat. Anyway, let's get down to business. Our first dash. Wait, what did Midoriya and F/N do? You didn't finish. One of the students asked Mr. Izuku, cutting him off. Oh, please don't tell them, please. You can ask the special surprise herself later during lunch. he said, smirking at me once again as I glared at him. "Oh yeah, thanks for saving my life, you stupid teacher. As I was saying, our first task will decide your future," he said, making us all stare at him in shock. The room was so quiet that you can literally hear a pin drop somewhere in the school. "I hope it's not another Quirk test. You all need to pick a class representative," Mr. Izuku said, revealing what the task was. "Oh, thank goodness. It's just normal school stuff," I said under my breath while everyone let out a relieved sigh. And then all hell broke loose. Everyone started to say, pick me, and you're gonna need me, 𝗵𝗃 responsible. In a normal classroom, being class rep would just mean having extra work, but here in the hero course there's more to it. It's a way to get noticed by agencies and pros. I look over at Izuku to him nervously raising his hand. I looked around the room and everyone else was raising their hands too. I guess I'm the only who doesn't want this. "Silence. Everyone please," someone yelled, gaining everyone's confused attention. It was Ida. The class rep's duties is to lead others. That's not something that just anyone can do. You must first have the trust of every student in the classroom. Therefore, the most logical way to fill this position is democratically. We will hold an election to choose our leader, Ida said with all seriousness, but it's pretty obvious he wants us to vote for him since he had his hands up during his whole speech. "Is this really the best idea?" Jdru asked. "We have only known each other for a few days. How do we know who we can trust?" asked 𝗬𝗪. "Besides, everyone will just vote for themselves," Jdru commented. "Most people will. But that means whoever does receive the most votes must be the most suitable person for this job. It's the best way, right, Sensei?" Ida said. "Do what you want, just decide before my nap's over," Mr. Izuku said, and then knocked out on the floor in his yellow sleeping bag. Moments went by and the results were in. Ida wrote everyone's name including mine on the board, and everyone had to put a check on who should be class rep. But, so that no one would see, Ida put a curtain in front of the board. When Ida took down the curtain in the end, I looked over at my name and it had 3 votes. I looked over at Izuku's name and he had 3 votes too, meaning we are tied. "How did I get 3 votes? We said at the same time. "Okay, you idiots. Who voted for them?" Bakugo angrily said, glaring at everyone. "What? Did you honestly think anyone was gonna vote for you?" 𝗬𝗪 laughed, and so did everyone else as he started to complain. Mr. Izuku woke up, and now Midoriya and I were standing in front of the class together with Yaoyorozu. "Alright, our class rep is Midoriya and 𝗵/N since they tied, and our class deputy is Yaoyorozu," Mr. Izuku announced. "Actually, I don't want to be class rep, so Izuku can just have it to himself," I said, and everyone was shocked. "What? Why?" they all asked except Bakugo and 𝗵/N, which I learned his name was Todoroki. "It's just not my thing," I said, shrugging. "Then you can be class princess," Jdru said out of the blue. "What? That's not even a thing," I said, looking at him with a puzzled face. "Well, it is now," Hagakure said. "What does a class princess even do?" I asked as I crossed my arms over my chest. "Well, you help out the rep and deputy in anything, and you can also order us around and plan out events. Plus, you look like a princess and act like one, so why not be one for this class?" Jdru said. "You're also really kind and brave like one too. Remember in the entrance exams, you saved that girl from the giant robot villain. That's not something just any one of us newbies can do," 𝗬𝗪 said with a smile. "Who you calling a newbie, Frogi? The only newbie here is you and everyone else except me," Bakugo yelled out. "Newsflash, Bakugo. You're a newbie too. So shut up and stop being so rude and disrespectful to people," I yelled at him, making him look at me in shock. I then hummed and looked back at everyone else to see them smiling at me. "You just defended me from Mr. Bully over there," 𝗬𝗪 said, proving her point. "I guess it wouldn't be so bad to be class princess." Fine. I'll be your class princess," I said, rolling my eyes while everyone cheered. Geez. I love my class. I was now sitting in the lunchroom eating my lunch with Ida, Uraraka, and Izuku. "Ugh, it's always so crowded in here," Uraraka pointed out while she ate her rice. That's because everyone in the hero course, support course, and management course all share the same cafeteria. Ida explained and I nodded in understandment. This rice is so good, 𝗬𝗧𝗏𝗃 said, giggling afterwards. I looked over at Izuku to see that he hasn't even touched his food. You okay, Izuku? I asked, nudging him a little. I'm just worried about the class rep thing. I don't think I'm qualified, he said, and that caught Ida and 𝗬𝗧𝗏's attention. Sure you are, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 said. You'll be great, Ida said, looking down at his food. I knew he was sad he didn't get picked. I mean, he wanted that position as much as anyone in the classroom did. Your courage and quick thinking under stress will make you a worthy leader. Not to mention the strength you demonstrated. Those are the reasons I voted for you at least, Ida said, looking up at Izuku and then continuing to eat his curry. You were one of the three? Izuku asked in disbelief. Didn't you want to be rep really badly though? I mean, you do look the part. 'Cause of the glasses, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 said. I guess I wasn't the only who noticed that Ida wanted the position. That's not exactly how we should be choosing our rep, I said, giggling at her silliness. She just shrugged and kept eating with a big smile on her face. Sheesh, how does she eat so much and keep a good body? Wanting to do it and being suited for it are different issues. Observing the Ida agency has taught me that much. Ida finished saying. Agency, 𝗬𝗧𝗏, Izuku and I said in unison. Hold on, what does your family do? I asked him. It's nothing, Ida nervously said. You know, I've been wondering something about you, admitted Ida. You're filthy rich, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 claimed, and I tried not to laugh seeing she had a little rice stuck on her chin. He was afraid people would treat me differently if they knew about my family, he said, looking away. He then started to explain about his family, and I must say he is very lucky. One of his brothers is a pro hero, and I knew about his brother because of Izuku. Hey F/N, someone called, and I looked back to see almost my whole class coming towards us except Bakugo and Half and that bird guy that I forgot the name of. So, what happened between you and Midoriya when you were alone during the battle 𝗕𝗏𝗄? Ashido asked me with a smirk. I forgot Mr. Aizawa told them to ask me during lunch. That 𝗵𝗃𝗏𝗧𝗏. I looked over at Izuku, who was red and stuffed all his food in his mouth. Gee, thanks for the help. And nothing happened. We just talked, I said, looking down at my empty plate. Just talked? Ijiro pushed. By now my face is looking like a tomato. I sigh, and I was about to tell them the truth when an alarm rang. What's happening? I heard 𝗬𝗧𝗏 ask. Warning. Level 3 security breach. All students please evacuate the building in an orderly fashion. A woman spoke in the intercom. Hold on, what's a level 3 security breach? I asked. It means that someone has managed to get past the school's barriers. This hasn't happened in my 3 years here. We should get going. A random guy answered, and we all got up and ran. When we made it to the halls, there was huge traffic and everyone was pushing each other. It was just chaos. I was being squished to the window along with Ida, 𝗬𝗧𝗏, and Izuku. The rest of the class disappeared, but they're probably in the back. This is a total mob, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 yelled. Everyone was quick to react. As expected from AU. A student, Ida said. Sure. But they're also causing a huge panic. Izuku yelled out. Who in the world could have trespassed? I asked myself, looking out the window to see reporters in front the school's red and gold doors, which were closed A/N, not the gate. The gate got destroyed and also it's gray. I then spotted Mr. Aizawa and Present Mike standing in front of them. I was afraid there was some kind of attack on the school, but there's no need to worry. Ida tried to stop the panic but got pushed to the window. Ugh, with these goddamn teachers. Why aren't they taking control? I yelled out in frustration. And then I got an idea as I spotted the exit. Ida, 𝗬𝗧𝗏. I have a plan to stop this. I yelled out to them. I have no idea where Izuku went. 𝗬𝗧𝗏. Touch Ida's hand and make him float above everyone else. Once Ida is up, use your speed to get to the front and then get everyone's attention. I tell them and they understood. Alright, I know what to say once I get there. Thanks for the idea, Ida said, and I smiled and nodded. Ida managed to touch 𝗬𝗧𝗏 and he was now floating. I saw him speed up to the front and he already catched some people's attention. He hit the wall and stopped on top of the exit sign, and he also grabbed the pole above him for support. Listen up. Everything is okay. Ida yelled with power. He now had everyone in this hallway's attention. I knew this plan would work. It's just the media outside. There is absolutely nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. We're students. We need to remain calm and prove that we're the best of the best. He said, finishing his speech. I heard everyone let out a relieved sigh, and then the police siren was heard. Little did Ida know that this was the moment he proved to everyone in class who the real class rep should be. It should have been him all along. Not me nor Izuku. Time skip. After everyone got settled, we went back to class. I spoke to Izuku and some of the people in our class about letting Ida have the position of class rep, and they agreed. We were now all sitting in class except for Izuku and Yaoyorozu. It's time, class rep. Let's begin. She said to him. I haven't told her about Izuku giving his position to Ida yet, so she doesn't know. So we need to figure out who the other class officers will be. Izuku said nervously, but then he looked down and he looked a bit more serious. But first, there's something that I want to say. He said, making Yaoyorozu and some of the people in the class confused. I've thought a lot about this, and I think that Tenya Ida should be our class republic, he said, making me and the people that knew this smile. The rest looked shocked. We looked at Ida to see him with a shocked face too. He was able to capture everyone's attention and get us in line. So I believe that he should be the one leading our class from now on. Izuku said with an adorable smile. Yeah, you know what? If Midoriya vouches for him, I'm good. Plus he was a big help. He totally maned up and took charge, am I right? Ijiro commented. Yeah. The class said in unison. This is a waste of time. Mr. Aizawa said from the corner of the front room. He was in the floor in his sleeping bag. I swear he lives there. I don't care who the class rep is, just hurry up. He said and knocked out again. Sheesh. Ida stood up and spoke. If Midoriya is nominating me for this job, then I humbly accept. I pledge to carry out the duties of class rep to the best of my abilities. He said with a determined voice. But I couldn't have done this without our princess. The speech was my doing, but the rest was her idea. So I thank you and am thrilled to be working by your side, Your Highness. He said, smiling at me. Please don't call me Your Highness, I said, bushing. Yeah, it was also her idea to make you class rep too. She told her plan to a few of us before class started. Izuku said, all hail, class princess. Ida said, making everyone cheer again. I just blushed even more and laughed nervously. Geez, this class really is something else. But little did we all know that war would come upon us all, for it wasn't the media who broke the gates so that they would get in, that was someone else's doing. A villain. After the class cheered for me and whatever, Ida and Yaoyorozu picked the class officers. After that, Aizawa woke up and started to explain to us about this training that we will be doing. Today's training will be a little different. You'll have 3 instructors. Me, All Might, and another faculty member will be keeping tabs on you. He said. Wow, 3 pros. Is that because of the break-in? Sir, what kind of training is this? Siro asked, raising his hand. Rescue. You'll be dealing with natural disasters. Shipwrecks and stuff like that. Aizawa explained, and now everyone, including me, is excited to start. This is a good way to use different powers, but I need to be careful not to overuse them or am done for. Everyone erupted in a series of murmurs, talking about how awesome it will be to start doing real hero stuff and how excited they are to show off their powers. Guy. I'm not finished explaining yet. Aizawa said, making everyone shut up. What you wear in this exercise is up to you. I know you're excited about costumes. He said as he hit the button on a controller that takes out our costumes. Lucky for me, my costume got fixed, so I'll be wearing it today. But keep in mind that you haven't gotten used to them yet, and they might limit your abilities. This special training is at an offset facility inside the school campus, so we will be taking a bus to get there. That's all. Start getting ready. He finished, and with that we all got up. Hey Izuku, will you be wearing your costume? I asked as I got mine. No. It hasn't been fixed. But I see yours has. He said, and I nodded. I walked up to Uraraka and we walked to the girls' changing room together. Time skip, we were now standing outside of you, awaiting for everyone else. Hey Deku, why are you wearing your 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗁 clothes? Where's your costume at? 𝗬𝗧𝗏 asked once we walked up to Izuku. You saw it after the combat training. It was kinda trashed. I'm still waiting on the support company to fix it up. He explained. Alright, come on. Let's start lining up. I told them, and as soon as I said that, Ida blew his whistle. Gather around class 1A. Using your student number for a 2 neat lines so we can board the bus efficiently. He announced, and Izuku and 𝗬𝗧𝗏 sweat dropped. Ida is kicking it into high gears as our class rep, huh? Izuku said. Yep. Come on. I said, and we all boarded the bus. We were now boarded and on our way to wherever the training will be at. The bus's open layout ruined my boarding strategy. Ida complained. Ida, you really need to chill. Ashido said, patting his back. If we're pointing out the obvious, then there's something I want to say. About you actually. Tsuyu said, pointing at Izuku. About me? What is it, Azui? He questioned. I told you to call me Tsu, she said. Oh yops. Izuku said, scratching the back of his head. Anyway, that power of yours. Isn't it a lot like All Might's? She said, and Izuku and I froze. Really? You think so, huh? I never really thought about that. I guess it is though, I mean, Izuku said, but then he started to mumble random stuff. God, Izuku, you're hopeless. Yeah, but All Might doesn't hurt himself when using his quirk. That makes a huge difference, I said, and that made Izuku stop talking, and he let out a relieved sigh. Thanks. He said low enough so only I can hear. I just smiled. Still, I bet it's cool to have a similar quirk. You can do a lot of flashing stuff with it. My hardening quirk is super strong and can destroy bad guys during a fight, but it doesn't look at all impressive. Ijiro said, showing off his quirk. Oh no way, I think it's really awesome looking. You're definitely pro material with a quirk like that. Izuku said, showing of his bright smile. When it comes to quirks, he's always interested and his eyes shine brighter than normal. It's cute. You really think so? Seems like it would be easier to be a pro hero if I had something flashier. Ijiro said. My naval lasers is pro level in both flashiness and strength. Aoyama said. But it's lame if it gives you a stomach ache, sweetie. Ahido said, making Aoyama sulk. Well, if any one of our classmates has pro quirks, it would be 𝗵𝗃𝗏, Bakugu, and Todoroki. Ijiro said. Wait, that's another reason 𝗵/N was chosen to be class princess. She has all of the quirks in the work, so basically you're like the quirk queen or something. Tsuyu said. I never thought about it like that. I said, smiling at her. And also Bakugu is always angry, so he will never be that popular. Tsuyu said, making Bakugu angry, and Izuku stare at her in shock. What did you say? I'll kick your butt, you stupid frog. Bakugu said, making me angry. I wish I could just stretch my arm over there and smack him. But wait, I can. I focused on my arm and imagined it being stretchy. Then to my amazement it worked. I stretched my arm to Bakugu and smacked him on the head, making Izuku look at me in amazement. Don't talk like that to her, you prick. I yelled at him. Bakugu will never be popular. Tsuyu said. You know, Bakugu, we basically just met you, so it's kinda amazing that we all know your personality is flaming CRP mixed with garbage. Kaminari said, making Bakugu even more mad and making me laugh. You will regret the day you applied to this school, you loser. Bakugu said, now losing his temper. I was about to smack him again when Aizawa spoke. Alright, shut up. We're here. So stop messing around. He announced, making me look outside the window where I saw this huge dome. When we arrived, we all got out. I stretched because being in a bus is tiring. We all walked up to the dome and saw someone standing there. OMG, it's the Space Hero 13. He's so awesome. Hello everyone. I've been waiting for you. He said. 13 is one of my favorite heroes. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 said, fangirling along with everyone else. I can't wait to show you what's inside. 13 said. This is gonna be awesome. Everyone said in unison. We all walked inside and looked all around us in awe. There were different stations or natural disasters all around the dome, and it looked so appealing. Holy CRP. It looks like some kind of amusement park. I said out loud, and everyone agreed with me. A shipwreck, a landslide, a fire, a windstorm, etc. I created this training facility to prepare you to deal with different types of disasters. 𝗬𝗏 explained. I call it the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short. He said. Just like Universal Studios Japan, or USJ for short, I said in my head, and by the looks of everyone else I can tell they thought the same thing. Hey, shouldn't All Might be here already? Let me guess he booked an interview instead. Aizawa said with a frustrated tone. Actually, it's something else. 𝗬𝗏 said in a quiet voice, but I can still hear him with my heightened senses, which is a quirk I learned to use at some point in my house. Apparently he did too much hero work on the way to school this morning and used up all his power. He's resting in the teacher's lounge. He said, and I let out a sigh. All Might needs to stop doing that. He doesn't understand that he isn't the only pro-hero around. I guess that's what happens when you're the symbol of peace though, huh? That man is the height of irresponsibility, but we should be fine with just us two. Aizawa said. Anyway, the clock's ticking. We should get started. Aizawa said, now walking towards a nearby wall to lean on. Excellent. Before we begin, let me just say one thing. Well, maybe two things. Possibly 34. A 5-inch 𝗬𝗏 said, struggling with his words. We get it. The whole class said in unison. We be doing that a lot lately. Weird. Listen carefully. I'm sure you're all aware that I have a powerful quirk. It's called Black Hole. I can use it to 𝗧𝗵𝗃 up anything and turn it into dust. 𝗬𝗏 explained. Yeah. You've used Black Hole to save many people from all kinds of disasters, haven't you? Izuku said. True, but my quirk can very easily be used to kill. Some of you also have powers that can be dangerous. 𝗬𝗏 said, making us all gasp. Which reminds me, All Might informed me that there's a student in this class that possees every quirk in the world. Please raise your hand if you're here. 𝗬𝗏 said, and I raised my hand. What's your name, young lady? 𝗬𝗏 asked. It's F/NL/N, I said nervously. Well, F/N, I informed All Might that at some point I would be glad to teach you this quirk. It will be hard, but with patience and practice I know you can perfect it, along with the rest of your quirks. 𝗬𝗏 said, and it took every strength in my body not to scream with excitement. Right. I said with a determined face. In our superhuman society, personal quirks have been certified and regulated, so that doesn't seem to be a problem at first glance. However, please don't forget that there are many quirks that can easily kill with one wrong step. With Aizawa's physical fitness test, you found out about the possibility of your own hidden powers, and with All Might's combat training, I think you experienced the danger of using those powers against others. This class is a fresh start. You shall learn how to use your quirks to save people's lives. You do not have powers so that you can harm others. I hope you leave here with the understanding that you have powers in order to help others. 𝗬𝗏 finished his speech. He's so cool. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for listening. He said, and we all cheered. Right. Now that that's over, Aizawa was about to say something, but all of a sudden the lights went out. I looked behind 𝗬𝗏 to see the fountain turning off and on, and then a black swirl appeared out of nowhere. Mr. Aizawa, 𝗬𝗏, look. I said, pointing to the fountain. Everyone watched as the black swirl turned into some kind of weird black shadow with yellow eyes. A man with pale skin and a bunch of hands all over his body came out of the shadow along with a bunch of villains. Oh my God, I said as I watched, scared out of my mind. Stay together and don't move. Aizawa told us as him and 𝗬𝗏 stood in front of us. Dang it, All Might, please hurry and recover and get here. I watched as Aizawa put on his golden glasses or goggles, whatever that thing is, meaning that this isn't part of training. This is real. Those are villains. Aizawa said, making us all gasp except me. We all thought this would be a fun training day, but boy were we wrong. We just stood there as villains came out of the Shadow Man one by one. I was scared out of my mind and Izuku was a mess. Izuku, I said, grabbing his hand. Don't worry. 𝗬𝗏 and Aizawa are pros, they got this. I said, giving his hand a gentle squeeze. But look how many there are. Aizawa and 𝗬𝗏 are only two heroes. They can't do this on their own. Izuku said, freaking out. I just stood there thinking, not knowing what to do. So you scumbags used the press as a cover and sneaked into campus, huh? Aizawa asked as he got into a fighting stance. All of the villains then began to walk towards us. How did so many villains get into you? Ijiro asked worried. Yeah, 13, why aren't the alarms going off? I asked confused once I realized. Great question, I'm not sure. 13 said. Is the entire campus under attack? Or is this their only target? Todoroki asked. Either way, if the alarm sensors aren't being triggered, then one of these villains must be masking their presence here. He finished saying. I get it. They carefully chose this isolated facility as an entry point at a time when a class was being taught. I said, and everyone nodded in understanding. They're fools for trespassing here, but they thought this out. Whatever their plan is, they must have a concrete objective in mind. But what is it? Todoroki said as we all watched the villains approach us in fear. 13, get them out of here and alert the main campus. Actually, if they got the ability to block our sensors, then they might be jamming our regular communications too. Kaminari, try using your quirk to contact the school. Aizawa ordered. Yes, sir. Kaminari said. What are you gonna do? You can't fight them on your own, there's too many of them. At least let me help you. I begged, letting go of Izuku's hand. No. I can handle this on my own, you stay back and don't use your powers. Remember that we can't let them know about you. Aizawa quickly declined. But even if you can take away their quirks, your fighting style isn't suited for this. Your powers works best in stealth one-on-one fights. That's not gonna help with a group, you have to let me fight with you. I begged again. I said no, and that's final. Plus you can't be a pro if you only have one trick. Aizawa smirked, making my eyes wide. He can do more then. I'll leave it to you, 13. Aizawa yelled out, and then he was off. I watched in amazement how he fought off everyone so easily. I never knew how amazing he was. Come on, and we have to go. Ida said as he grabbed my wrist and pulled me towards the exit. We were all running until a black hole appeared on the floor, making us all stop. It was the shadow guy. It's a pleasure to meet you all. We are the League of Villains. I know it's impolite, but we decided to invite ourselves into this haven of justice to say hello, the shadow guy said as we all stared at him in fear. I wonder what 13 is thinking about. And besides, isn't this a fitting place for All Might, the symbol of peace, to take his last breath? He said, making me flinch. I felt Izuku flinch next to me too. I believe he was supposed to be here today, and yet I see no sign of him. There must have been some sort of change in plans we could not have foreseen. Oh well, in the end I suppose it doesn't matter. I still have a role to play. He chuckled, and 13 was about to use their quirk when Ijiro and Bakugo decided to attack. Idiots. Bakugo made an explosion causing smoke, and now none of us could see what's going on. Did you think we would just stand around and let you tear this place to shreds? Ijiro asked when the smoke finally cleared out a bit. You really do live up to your school's reputation, but you should be more careful, children, otherwise someone might get hurt. The shadow man said, reappearing, but I noticed he had something metal on his neck. Get out of the way right now. 13 yelled. My job is to scatter you all and torture you to death. The shadow man growled as he made his shadow surround us. What the? I yelled out as I got closer to Izuku. Complete darkness was all that I could see until I felt wind hitting my face. I opened my eyes to see Izuku and I falling into water. What the hell? I yelled out as I landed in the water. Shadow guy must have a warping quirk or something. What's important though is that they all came here to kill All Might. I guess it's a good thing he's not here right now, although we do need him. I began to swim up when I saw something swimming towards me. At first I thought it was Izuku, but then I got a closer look and it was actually a villain that looked like a shark. First catch of the day. Nothing personal, pretty lady, but you gotta die. The villain laughed as it got closer. Oh CRP, what do I do? I was about to blow him away with my air quirk, but then Tsuyu came out of nowhere. Thank the gods. Sup, class princess, she said as she wrapped her tongue around me and swam us up. We jumped out of the water and landed on a boat. I then realized that we were in the shipwreck zone. I looked up to see Izuku and Mineta. For a frog you got some pretty big bubtsu. Perfect floaties. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 slurred, making 𝗬𝗪 blush and knock him out. You saved my life, 𝗬𝗪. Thank you. Izuku said. I told you to call me 𝗬𝗪 or 𝗬. 𝗬 said, making me laugh. This is turning out to be a terrible day of class. She said, looking drained. Yeah, I said, looking down at the water. I keep thinking about what that shadow man said. I said, remembering what Shadow Man said about All Might. Yeah, me too. Izuku sighed as he stood next to me. They knew our whole schedule and who would be here. They must have gotten into the school files while we were stuck in the CAF. The teachers were all busy trying to get the media off school grounds. Izuku elaborated. That means that they have been waiting for the perfect time to attack, just like Todoroki said they were. I said, looking at him. But hold on a second. It's not like this guy can really kill All Might. Once he shows up, he'll P&D these villains until there's nothing left. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said, trying to make us not worry so much. Think about it though. If the villain spends so much time planning this attack, then they probably figured out a way to kill him. 𝗬𝗪 said, making Izuku and I look at each other in fear. And didn't you hear what that smoke dude said? Maybe we should worry more about not getting tortured to death. Otherwise we might not be able to survive long enough to see All Might again. And even if he does show up, who knows if he'll make it out in one piece. 𝗬𝗪 said, and she's right. And no way the pros are gonna save us, right? 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said, freaking out. I was about to say something when we heard something in the water. We all looked to see 16 villains coming our way. 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝗏𝗧. I'll enjoy eating all of you. The shark one that tried to eat me earlier said. God, I wish I knew how to control all of my quirks. But even so, I have a limit that I can't pass. If they can beat him, then we have to stop whatever it is these bad guys are planning. Izuku said with a confident look on his face. I can tell he was thinking whatever he is going to say through. We have to work together and keep All Might safe. No one at you knows what's happening. This is up to us now. We all nodded except for 𝗵𝗃𝗲, who still looked hesitant, fear all over his face. So you're saying to fight? Are you crazy? These guys might be able to kill All Might and you think we can take him? Did you hit your head when we got warped here? 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said, rambling on and on as to why this is such a bad idea. Think about it. Those villains clearly have an advantage in the water, and I assume that's where we'll fight. Izuku said, looking down in thought. Are you even listening? 𝗵𝗃𝗲 yelled, crying at this point. If that's the case, they must have known what was inside the 𝗬𝗧𝗃, the dome, before they warped in. I said, ignoring 𝗵𝗃𝗲's annoying cries. Yeah, but for a group of such careful planning, there's one thing that really sticks out to me. Something that just doesn't add up. They sent you here, 𝗬𝗧𝗃𝗍. Izuku said, correcting himself and making 𝗬𝗪 and I giggle. Anyway, they warped you into the shipwreck zone. He said. But why does it matter that she's here? 𝗵𝗃𝗲 screamed again. He's really starting to tick me off. It means the villains don't know what our quirks are. Izuku said, looking at him with annoyance. I can tell he's losing his marbles too. You've got a point. If they knew I was a frog, they would have sent me into the fire zone instead of somewhere full of water. 𝗬𝗪 hummed as she looked around. They probably separated us because they didn't know what we could do and planned to overpower us once we're in smaller groups, making easier to pick us off one by one. We can use that to our advantage. They don't know what our quirks are. So for all they know, the four of us could be super powerful. Like 𝗧/ and I know your powers have to be kept secret, but this is important, so you need to use them in this battle. Of course I remember you have limits, so all three of us will help you. Izuku said, looking at me, his face serious. If we defeat and capture all the villains, then they can't get word out about you and you'll still be safe. I looked down in though and then nodded, agreeing with him. Okay, good. Now look, none of them are climbing onto the boat, proving that they are a little unsure, but that means that they aren't going to underestimate us either. They're being smart and playing it safe. For now. Izuku said as we all just watched the villains under us. Alright, so let's talk quirks. I'll go first if you guys want. 𝗬𝗪 offered, and Izuku and I nodded and crouched down so that the villains can't see us. Okay, so obviously I can jump high and cling to pretty much any wall, and of course there's my tongue. I can stick it out about 20 meters. Oh yeah, and I can spit out my stomach and wash it. That's not really useful. Last but not least, I can also secrete a toxic mucus. It just stings a bit. We can probably just use my jumping and my tongue. Forget about the last things. 𝗬𝗪 listed off, shrugging, and then end. I figured you were powerful, but that's amazing. I have my super strength, but it comes with a price. Once I use it, I'm pretty much out of commission. It's a double-edged sword until I can control it. Izuku said, looking over at me after to signal my turn. I have every quirk, but I don't know how to use them all, plus I have a limit that I can't pass or I'll die. But the quirks I somewhat got under control is my wind/air quirk and super stretch quirk. I said, leaving out that I also know one for all, and they nodded. All I have are these sticky ball. Mineta said, taking a ball out of his head, and another grew in its place. Their strength varies. Depending on how I'm feeling, they might stick to something for the whole day. He said, putting it on the wall, and it really does stick. They grow back as fast as I can pull them off, but I'll bleed if used too many. He finished explaining. I guess you have a limit too then. I said, looking at him as he nodded. I looked at Izuku and 𝗬𝗪 to see them just staring at him. Mineta started to have tears in his eyes, and soon enough he was full out crying. Don't look at me like that. This is why I think we should wait for the real heroes. My quirk is totally useless for battle. He yelled out in frustration. You have an incredible power. Really, we just have to figure out how to use it. Izuku said, trying to make him calm down. I was about to say something when I saw a giant water arm in the corner of my eye. Before I can warn anyone, the arm cut the boat in two, making us almost fall off. CRP. This is turning into the movie Titanic, minus the fact that we're heroes and the boat is sinking because of the villains instead of an iceberg. Mineta yelled out. I'm starting to get bored. Let's get this show on the road. One of the villains yelled up at us. That's a great power. Now the ship's sinking. 𝗬𝗪 complicated as Mineta began to panic and throw his sticky ball in the water. Mineta, don't freak out, stop. Izuku told him, but all Mineta did was keep crying and pointing out to the villains. Izuku looked down in worry, but then his face lit up like it always does when he has a plan or idea. I'm guessing you got a plan based on your facial expression. I asked him as he looked at me and smirked. You know me so well, babe. He said, making me blush. Hold on, babe. Mineta and 𝗬𝗪 both said, looking right at us. That's a conversation for later. I yelled out quickly, dismissing the subject as the ship began to move a lot and Mineta began to freak out again. Are you sure this hero thing is really right for you, Mineta? I said, laughing nervously. Shut up. It's freaking weird not to be scared right now. We were only in junior high until a little while ago. Who would have freaking thought that we would be almost killed right after starting school? He yelled out as we just watched him. I wish I could at least touch 𝗬𝗪𝗎𝗍𝗪 first. He finished and we just sweat dropped. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗲. Listen up, an enemy that is certain of their victory is bound to make a mistake. All Might said something along those lines in a TV interview a while back, Izuku said as he stood near the railing looking down at the water filled with villains. What does that mean? Mineta whined, and then he gasped when he saw Izuku's fist, as if realizing what he meant by that. Now is our chance, we can beat them. He said, looking back at us with a brave yet determined look. Midoriya, what the F are you doing? Mineta yelled as Izuku put his right foot on the railing, getting ready to jump. Now die. Izuku yelled out to the villains, sounding a bit like Bakugo as he jumped up and off the boat. Then I realized what he was doing. He was acting like Bakugo. Reckless and just head-on. Stupid move, kid. One of the villains said, ready to slash Izuku in two. I saw him grab his hand and make this hand gesture as if he isn't going to use his powers on his whole hand. Just his fingers. I then felt someone tap my shoulder. You ready, Y/N? 𝗬𝗪 asked. I was confused at first, but then I understood. I nodded and got ready. Take this. Delaware smash. He said, creating a giant splash and then a whirlpool. 𝗬𝗪, Mineta, Y/N now. Izuku yelled out, and that was our signal to jump. I used my wind quirk to jump high along with 𝗬𝗪, who held Mineta. 𝗬𝗪 quickly grabbed Izuku, and then Mineta threw in his sticky ball, making all of the villains stick together. If a strong force is applied to the surface of the water, it'll spread and then converge back in the middle. Izuku explained, and I watched as they were stuck in the middle, and then a giant water geyser appeared, making the ship fly along with the villains. Wow. It rounded everyone up at once. I said, cheering. Not too shabby. You guys are amazing. All three of you. I guess we passed the shipwreck zone. 𝗬𝗪 said, cheering as well. She was right, but there were still more villains that we needed to worry about. Until every villain is beat, we can't cheer for victory. 𝗕𝗶𝗍𝗶𝗿𝗀𝗃. Stop. What the dash? What was that? I asked in my head as I was walking out of the water with 𝗬𝗪, Mineta and Izuku. That vision though was that one of my quirks doing. Hey, 𝗬𝗓 you okay? You're looking a bit pale. Izuku asked with a worried tone. I'm fine, it's just I had this weird vision just now. There was BLD everywhere, and then I saw all might all bloody, and then I heard someone yell out, no, stop. And then that's when my vision ended. I said as I tried to get some of the water out of my hair. Maybe one of your quirks did that. A premonition maybe. 𝗬𝗪 said, looking at me with a worried look too. I don't know, but we shouldn't worry about it right now. I mumbled and shook it off, but little did I know how wrong I was. I was in pain. A lot of pain, but I didn't want to show it, so I covered it up with a brave and confident look. This battle wasn't over and I won't stop just because of pain. I had to keep going. That premonition 𝗬𝗓 was starting to worry me though. What if what she described actually happens? I wish she can tell me how all of this ends. Anyway, I can't believe we managed to catch all of them at once. It took everything I had to keep my composure and blah blah blah. I kept mumbling stuff without noticing until 𝗬𝗪 told me stop bringing me back to reality from my whatever I was saying. Instead of second-guessing what we did, shouldn't we be thinking of our next move? 𝗬𝗓 asked, crossing her arms over her chest. My next move is to bring you to safety and make sure you aren't hurt, is what I was going to say, but then decided to say something else instead. We should make getting help our top priority. If we follow the short of the exit, then we can avoid the central plaza entirely. I explained, pointing to where I wanted us to go. Good idea. That way we don't run into the villains Mr. Izuku is facing off with. 𝗬𝗪 said, making me think about how he's handling things right now. Can he really handle them on his own? How long can he hold out against a big group like that anyway? If he doesn't get some backup, then he's just going to overexert himself. He'll end up defeated by those villains because he was trying to keep us safe. I said, looking down. Don't tell me you're suggesting where you trying to get us killed or something. Mineta whispered/yelled. I'm not saying that we should jump into the middle of a battle, but maybe we can find a way to take a few of those guys out and lighten Izuku's load, I said, letting out a frustrated sigh, kinda not liking my own idea myself. We've had our first real fight and won, but that only gave us false hope. It made us think our powers could actually work against the enemy. We'd soon learn how wrong we were. Little did we know that going to help Izuku was going to be the worst mistake we have ever made. 𝗕𝗶𝗍𝗶, a girl with white glowing eyes and glowing white hair, villains frozen in time, all might 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I whispered. It happened again. 𝗬𝗓, hey, are you crying? Izuku said, grabbing my hand and making me snap out of my trance. Huh? I asked as I brought a hand up to my face and felt something wet. Was it another vision? He asked, wiping the rest of my tears away, and I can tell he was starting to worry about me and those visions I'm having. Nodding, I told him and everyone else what I saw. Those visions could happen at any moment, and I know you said not to worry about them, but I'm really starting to worry about them. Mineta said, his voice a little shaky. Let's just go help Izuku and then get out of here. I mumbled as I began to walk away. Are you sure? Mineta could be right, you know. 𝗬𝗪 said, concerned. As long as we hurry and help Izuku and then leave before anything else happens, we should be fine. I said, and that was that. After a while we finally made it close to where the battle was. We hid behind a rock that was near the water, to which we had to get back in and hide in. Remember guys, we're just here to see how things are going, all right? Mineta reminded, and we all nodded. We'll get out of here the second it seems dangerous. Izuku said, looking at me and then looking at the battle. We watched as Izuku fought left and right. He was so badass, I feel honored to watch him fight in person. Now I know why they put the people that ranked high in the entrance exam in his and All Might's class. Boy, aren't we lucky. I watched how out of breath Izuku was though. He can't keep up anymore. I heard running footsteps and looked to my left to see a guy with pale blue hair and hands all over his body running towards Aizawa. Final boss. Aizawa said to himself as he grabbed his scarf and got ready to fight the enemy. The villain grabbed Aizawa's scarf as Aizawa ran and punched the villain right in the stomach. Yes. I whispered/cheers. Hold on, look. Sue said, pointing at them. She was pointing at the villain's hand, which was grabbing Aizawa's elbow, and then Aizawa's hair stopped floating, meaning he stopped using his quirk. Oh no, I worriedly said as I watched his elbow turn to stone and crack and then chipped off. I was trying not to puke as I saw his muscle and more skin chipping off with blood dripping out. We have to help him. I frantically said as I was about to get up, but then got stopped by Izuku. Why/and no. You'll get killed. Even worse, the vision you had might happen. You need to stay here and let him handle it no matter how bad it looks right now, Izuku said, his voice wobbly, but I can tell he wanted to go out there and help him too. I looked back at Aizawa and saw him punch the villain quickly before any more of his elbow got damaged. Aizawa jumped back, but then other villains started to come at him again. He was doing fine until he got circled. He couldn't do anything with a damaged elbow. That annoying quirk of yours isn't suited for drawn-out fights against big groups, is it? The villain who damaged his elbow said as he got up from the ground. Don't you think you're a little out of your element here, Eraserhead? You're much better at working stealthily. You're known for surprise attacks, not fighting head-on. But despite knowing that, you didn't hesitate to jump into the middle of this fight, to put your student at ease. The villain said as he watched Aizawa struggle. The other villains then came at Aizawa again, but he handled it good, although he was having a hard time breathing. Honestly, I just want to go help him instead of hiding. You're still standing. You really are so cool. The villain said, admiring the fact that Aizawa has been holding up for this long. All of a sudden a flash came in my head and it was showing me Aizawa all bloody and dead. Was this another vision? Oh, by the way, I am not the final boss. The villain chuckled, and then I looked at Aizawa to see that weird-looking giant bird thing behind him. Aizawa turned around and saw him too, and that's when the worst thing happened. The giant bird thing slashed at his face, making blood go everywhere and his goggles fall off. Then the bird kept punching him until he was all bruised and bloody, and then he slammed him face first on the ground, and while all that happened we just hid with our hand on our gasping mouth, afraid to 𝗵𝗲𝗍, afraid to help. I saw this coming, I said silently as tears streamed down my eyes. What? Izuku whispered as he tore his eyes off of the horrible scene to look at me. He was crying too. I had a vision right before that thing came. It showed me a bloody and dead Aizawa. I sobbed, my body shaking in pure fear. I knew I should have done something. I growled as Izuku brought me close and hugged me, hiding the horrible view from my eyes. He isn't dead, I know he's not, he whispered, rubbing my back. This was the evil that pros faced. We've gotten our first look, but the worst was yet to come. So what do you think of him, Eraserhead? He's the opposite of the symbol of peace, but you can call him Nomu. The villain with the pale blue hair said proudly as the giant ugly bird now known as Nomu let out a loud screech and Aizawa let out a loud yell as Nomu broke his arm. He's still alive, Sue whispered as we looked back at Aizawa. Meaning that we have time to save him before what happens in my vision actually happens, I said as I looked at Izuku. He looked like he was debating whether or not to expose ourselves to the villains. I heard Aizawa scream again as he was trying to erase Nomu's quirk, but it wasn't working. Meaning that he's super strong even without powers, or that thing isn't human. I know now, I said, catching Izuku, Sue and Mina's attention. That Nomu thing is meant to destroy All Might. That's why these villains left him for last. I said. You really think so? Sue asked and I nodded. We watched as Nomu picked up Aizawa's head and we saw how pained his face looked before Nomu smashed his face on the ground again, this time making the ground crack. And no, I can't watch this anymore. We should be getting out of here super fast, shouldn't we? I heard Minato say as he covered his mouth and tried not to cry out. I looked at Izuku to see what he wanted to do right now, but he was still thinking and debating. I looked back at the battle to see that Shadow Man appeared next to the pale blue-haired guy. Tomura Shigaraki, the Shadow Man said. Oh, so that's pale blue-haired guy's name then. Kurojiiri. Tomura said back. And that's Shadow Man's name. Perfect. Kurojiiri, did you manage to kill 𝗬𝗏? asked. The rescue hero is out of commission, but there were students I wasn't able to disperse, also one of them got outside of the facility. Quirk explained. I gasped because of what happened with 13 but also because we're finally gonna get help from the rest of the faculties and pros. I was scared though because that means All Might will be coming and then my visions will. I looked at 𝗕𝗏 to see him angry and annoyed. Ugh, let's just go home. 𝗕𝗏 said, making me confused. Wait, did I hear that correctly? Mineta said as he was confused too. Yeah, I heard it too, I said, shocked. But wait, what about your visions? Were they fake? Or did we just prevent it from not happening by not doing anything? Izuku asked me. I shrugged because I honestly did not know what was going on. Well, if we did prevent your vision from actually happening, then that's good. The villains will go home and we can just help Aizawa get to the exit and then wait for the help to arrive and then everything will be okay. Mineta said with a relieved smile. Everyone nodded except for me. I still wasn't 100% sure if this battle was over or not. Only have a real bad feeling about this, I said, looking at them. I don't think this is over yet, I said, which made their relieved smiles fade away. Facing towards the villains again, we noticed how quiet things got, and how they haven't moved an inch from where we last saw them stand. Before we leave, let's make sure the symbol of peace is broken, 𝗕𝗏 said as he made eye contact with Izuku and I. See, we were spotted. Let's wreck his pride. 𝗕𝗏 yelled out as he appeared in front of us in a blink of an eye. Let's make this hurt, shall we? He yelled as he went for Tsu first. Everything seems to go in slow motion as 𝗕𝗏's hands nears Tsu's face. And I can't save her in time, Tsu. 𝗕𝗏 grabbed her face but then nothing happened. What? Hey, you really are cool. 𝗕𝗏 said out of nowhere, but then I looked at Aizawa to see that he took away 𝗕𝗏's quirk. Now's my chance. As soon as Nomu smashed Aizawa's head on the ground, I sucked up air into my mouth. At the same time, I Izuku in the corner of my eye, ready to use one for all. Let her go. Izuku and I yelled out, and at the same time we unleashed our quirks on 𝗕𝗏 just in time. Huge gushes of wind and smoke began to spread everywhere, making people fall back and making light posts fall and shatter. Once the smoke cleared, I looked at Izuku to see that his hand wasn't injured, which was weird. Then we looked up to see that 𝗕𝗏 wasn't the one who took the hit, it was Nomu. You two are pretty powerful, huh? 𝗕𝗏 said from behind Nomu. That smash of yours and that air quirk, are one of you one of All Might's disciples, I wonder? Doesn't matter. I'm done with you two now. 𝗕𝗏 said, bored, and then Nomu looked at us. I have never been so scared in my life. Nomu was about to grab me when Izuku pushed me out of the way. Izuku, no! I yelled out as I watched Nomu grab his arm. Everything went in slow motion again as Tsu was going to grab Izuku with her tongue, but 𝗕𝗏 was going to shatter Mineta and Tsu together. I was about to get up when I heard the door explode open. Plus everyone stopped and looked towards the exit to see All Might. Have no fear, students. I'm here. He said loud and clear. Tears began to come out of my eyes as once again we were saved. We were saved. Mineta yelled, crying a river of tears. Tsu quickly grabbed Izuku with her tongue and moved him away from Nomu. He's here, All Might, Izuku said with a shaken-up voice as Tsu dropped him next to her. It's good that he's here, but these people have a way to kill him, which is not good. Plus my visions, now they can come true. Looks like we aren't going home after all. 𝗕𝗏 laughed, delighted, making me shiver. This is a nightmare, All Might. He was here. He wasn't smiling though. I have never seen him so angry. After all this waiting, the heroic piece of trash shows up, 𝗕𝗏 said, laughing, making me flinch. I need to warn All Might about these villains' plans, but how? I don't know how to use my speed quirk yet. And I don't know how to talk to people through Mind Link either. All of the villains began to talk on how huge All Might was and how they were going to defeat him until All Might jumped from the entrance to the battlefield. He punched villains left and right without giving them a second to think. I really need to ask him to teach me some of his moves. After he punched the villains, he made his way to Aizawa and carried him bridal style. I can sorta hear All Might apologizing to him in a low voice. I low-key ship them, even if none of them are gay, but who knows? They might secretly be. All Might looked at us and was in front of us in a blink of an eye. He grabbed all of us and sped us away from the 𝗕𝗵𝗲 and 𝗕𝗵𝗲. I looked at 𝗕𝗵𝗲 to see that the hand that was covering his face fell off and landed on the ground. I looked at his face and saw that he had many wrinkles and his eyes were the color red just like 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗁's but with less life in it. What the heck? 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said looking at 𝗕𝗵𝗲 once All Might put us down. Everyone back to the entrance. Take 𝗳𝗏𝗧𝗏 with you. He doesn't have much time. All Might said and 𝗬𝗏 and 𝗵𝗃𝗲 nodded while Izuku and I were really hesitant to leave. All Might you can't. That brain villain took one FO. I smashed him and didn't break my arm this time. But he wasn't phased at all. He's too strong. Izuku said as he grabbed 𝗳𝗏𝗧𝗏. Young Midoriya. All Might said and then he turned around and gave him the peace sign. I got this. He said and that convinced Izuku but not me. I'm gonna stay here and help you. I said looking up at him. No F/N. You go and help Midoriya. I can deal with these villains on my own. He said looking back at the villains. But All Might you dash. I was going to tell him about my visions but then he cut me off. I said no and that's final. You aren't ready to face things like these so please, for me go and help Midoriya. He said and I looked down and ran up to Izuku who wasn't that far ahead. I'm not letting All Might do this alone. So I turned invisible and walked back to where the battle was without letting Izuku and the others notice. When I made it back to where All Might was, I saw him standing exactly where he was before I left meaning the battle hasn't begun yet. I hid behind a bush and deactivated my invisibility quirk for now. 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗧 smash. All Might said as he was about to hit 𝗕𝗵𝗲 but then 𝗕𝗵𝗲 got in the way. Again it didn't affect him in the slightest. It only caused the water to rise and fall. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 was about to hit All Might but he quickly dodged it. I guess. Midoriya wasn't wrong when he said it had no effect on you. All Might said as he punched 𝗕𝗵𝗲 in the stomach but that didn't do much. He then punched 𝗕𝗵𝗲 in the face twice but it didn't work either. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 screeched again as he was about to punch All Might but he backed up before 𝗕𝗵𝗲 could even touch him. Doesn't even matter where I punch you does it? All Might asked as he stopped backing up. All Might punched 𝗕𝗵𝗲 again repeatedly but nothing was happening to him except for a few stumbles here and there. This stupid bird alien thing really is crazy strong. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 said something that made All Might know how to beat 𝗕𝗵𝗲. All Might ran behind 𝗕𝗵𝗲 and grabbed him and then slammed him causing smoke to go everywhere. Once the smoke cleared my eyes went wide. Kurohige created a portal so that 𝗕𝗵𝗲 would grab All Might while All Might grabbed 𝗕𝗵𝗲. I looked at All Might closely to see BLD already coming out of his mouth. Oh no's running out of time. What do I do? Picture bellow cause it's hard to explain. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 began to press HRD on All Might's sides making it bleed a lot. No, I whispered. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 pressed harder digging his fingers deep in his sides exactly where his wound was. Stop it, I said raising my voice a little more but they didn't hear me. Nice work Kurohige, we've got him just where we want him. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 said as he laughed. I watched as All Might let go of 𝗕𝗵𝗲 and started to struggle to take 𝗕𝗵𝗲's hands off of his sides as he kept pressing onto it making a shit-ton of BLD come out. I need to do something but my body won't move. My visions are coming to reality. I saw as All Might's body got lowered into the warp thing but then stopped. But because Izuku all of a sudden ran past me and was about to attack. Izuku no. I said as ran after him. He was about to get sucked into Kurohige when 𝗵𝗃𝗲 came out of the blue and exploded him saving Izuku. Todoroki came too as he froze 𝗕𝗵𝗲 giving All Might the chance to escape but he was in a lot of pain. I was going to say something when Ijiro came as well. You guys, I said as tears were slowly coming down my eyes. Stay back F/N, Izuku said as he stood in front of me. I didn't respond back. I once again couldn't move at all. I was too shocked and surprised. I honestly thought that All Might was going to die right then and there but then they came. But in my vision I saw other dead bodies meaning it could be them and also meaning that it can happen at any moment now. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 called. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 came out of the warp and broke the pieces of ice. That caused his right hand and leg to rip off making everyone's eyes to go wide. But then new limbs grew back and making me cringe and how gross it looked. Stay back everyone. All Might yelled as he stood in front of all of us. I forgot to tell you 𝗕𝗵𝗲 also has super regeneration. Isn't that cool? 𝗕𝗵𝗲 said laughing. I swear he was getting in my nerves. 𝗵𝗃 has been modified to take you on even at 100% of your power. He's basically a highly efficient punching bag that hits back. 𝗕𝗵𝗃 said, making my whole face pale. No way. I watched as everyone went into a fighting stance. I was going to do the same, but my stupid body was still frozen in place. What the hell is wrong with me? Get them, 𝗵𝗃, 𝗕𝗵𝗃 said, and that's when everything happened. Everything that happened in my vision, I didn't even see him coming. 𝗵𝗃 in a blink of an eye hit everyone, making all of their bones break, starting with Bakugo and ending with Izuku. Before he got to me, All Might appeared and pushed me out of the way. I looked back to see that 𝗵𝗃 grabbed him and began to bend him. No, I said as I got up with wobbly legs. Stop, I said. I watched All Might bleed more and more. And then he was snapped in half, making blood go everywhere. No, I yelled out, and that's when I blacked out. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗃/N's eyes glowed white as her 𝗕/L turned all white as well. 𝗵/N's eyes glowed white as her 𝗕/L turned all white as well. Everything around her stopped moving, meaning she froze time. Tears slowly came out of her eyes as she watched everyone's dead bodies on the ground. Her friends, the man who was like a dad to her, the love of her life, and her best friend, all dead. I'm sorry, she whispered as she raised her hand up and it began to glow different colors. Slowly everything began to resume back to before 𝗵𝗃 attacked and killed everyone. Once time resumed, she unfroze everyone. Her eyes were still glowing and her hair was still white as she stood behind everyone once again. She watched as 𝗵𝗃 came at Bakugo, but before he could kill him, she quickly pushed him out of the way as she took the hit, landing 𝗕𝗪𝙢 on a wall. Wind pushed everyone back as the smoke began to rise, but then clear. Of that force, Midoriya said as he got up from the ground. He looked over at where Bakugo was last to see 𝗵𝗃 there where Bakugo was with Kurohige. Kaken! Midoriya yelled as he stared at the wall where smoke still lingered. He then looked down and noticed that Bakugo was next to him this whole time. Why, Kaken? Wow, that's awesome. You dodged him. Midoriya said as the others looked at Bakugo in amazement. Shut up, no I didn't, you damn nerd. Bakugo said, eyes wide in shock, making everyone confused. Did All Might save you then? Midoriya asked as he began to look worried. All Might is right there. Todoroki said, pointing behind him. That Speedy couldn't even see her, All Might said as his face looked pale. They all looked towards the wall where the smoke began to clear. Izuku V. When the smoke cleared, we saw a girl with glowing white eyes and white hair standing there. No ways that 𝗵/N. I then remembered her visions. Are they actually happening? Amazing, so you're the person that crazy scientist gave the red substance to 𝗕 that wasn't meant to be yours? 𝗕𝗵𝗃 growls, making my eyes go wide. Was that scientist part of his League of Villains? And what did he mean by that last part? If you don't know what I'm talking about, this event happened in the first chapter. It was when you got your powers. 𝗵/N. I yelled as I saw blood coming out of her mouth. I was about to go to her when All Might stopped me. Don't, he said as he watched her closely. You shouldn't have done that, 𝗵/N said as she glared at 𝗕𝗵𝗃 and the other two villains. What is she doing? She's going to get herself killed. All Might then walked next to her. I'll stay and fight with her, you guys go. He said, but I didn't want to. None of us did. 𝗵𝗃 Kurohige, kill All Might and bring me that girl, I'll deal with the children. 𝗕𝗵𝗃 said as the other two villains got ready. As soon as he said those words, he dashed straight for us while 𝗵𝗃 went for All Might. But then I saw 𝗵/N disappear from where she was and teleport right in front of me, making me shudder at the amount of power that was radiating off of her. Right as All Might and 𝗵𝗃 punched each other at the same time, 𝗵/N did the same thing, except 𝗕𝗵𝗃 was sent flying, but he landed without a scratch. You're such a pest. 𝗕𝗵𝗃 said as wind was blowing everywhere. 𝗵/N then appeared in front of All Might when he fell back and started to punch 𝗵𝗃 as he did the same to her, but it wasn't phasing her at all or him. As they repeatedly punched each other, the wind began to blow harder, making it impossible to get near them or 𝗕𝗵𝗃 and Kurohige, who were on the other side. 𝗵𝗃 punched 𝗵/N 𝗕𝗪𝙢 on the stomach, making her cough out blood, but she quickly came back and punched him 10x harder than before. She kept pushing him back with every punch, making explosions happen as she went. Die, you butt. she yelled as she hit him faster, adding explosions into the mix. She was winning. All Might and everyone else watched her with awe. She might as well be considered a pro hero. Every single one of those punches, they are not random, they're targeted, every single one of them, All Might said as he watched her. I don't even think he has blinked yet, but who knows. I was wrong about her. She is capable of fighting villains, he said, his voice filled with guilt. I looked back at the fight as I heard her yell and punch him, making him fly off. She teleported again in front of him, not giving him time to even stand. She grabbed him by the arm and flew him up. She then jumped up, grabbed him again and slammed him HRD on the ground, making us all jump and causing the ground to crack and shake. She landed HRD on the ground, making every cracked piece go up along with Nomu. "Don't you ever mess with my friends again, 𝗬𝗵𝗲," she said as she got ready to use All for One. "Go beyond. Plus 𝗓𝙧𝙢𝙢𝙢𝙧𝙮." She screamed as she punched Nomu right in the stomach, making it exploded and send him flying right out of the dome, causing some lights to explode and catch on fire and the whole ground to shake even harder. "I have never seen anyone so powerful," Ijiro said. "She matches All Might's strength," Todoroki said. "Imagine having powers like that," Bakugo said as we all stared wide eyes at 𝗵/N as fire fell around her and wind blew on her face, making her hair flow and making her look totally badass. "But there were still 2 villains left to fight, so we haven't won yet. I would leave if I were you, or do you want to die?" 𝗵/N said, glaring at Tamaru and Kurogiri as BLD ran down the side of her face and fire lit her fist. I looked at Tamaru to see him shake with anger. "You cheater, that power isn't yours, it's supposed to be mine," Tamaru yelled out. "So that power, it was meant for him all along, then why did that scientist give it to 𝗵/N? "I'll give you 20 seconds to leave or you die," she told them as the fire in her fist grew. "I don't think we're going anywhere, girlie," Tamaru said, smirking as he pointed behind us. All of a sudden the villains that were unconscious earlier began to wake up. "CRP. We're F," Ijiro said. "Oh no," All Might said. "He can't fight anymore. One more punch and it's back to his weak form, this is bad." "Don't worry," we heard 𝗵/N say as she looked at us with a smile. "Clone," she said as hundreds of her appeared next to her. "Holy A, scatter," she commanded as every clone teleported right in front of each villain. "Destroy," she commanded one more time, smirking like a psychopath before they all began to fight the villains. Bakugo and Ijiro and Todoroki joining them in the fight. I stayed and watched my girlfriend's every step. "Consider this revenge for what you did to Nomu, 𝗬𝗵𝗲," Tamaru yelled as he ran towards 𝗵/N together with Kurogiri. "CRP, she's gonna get killed." I quickly used my quirk and jumped towards her, causing my legs to break due to me using 5% of One for All on my legs, but I didn't care. I readied my fist as I was about to use One for All on Kurogiri. If I can punch the part of his body that is hidden, then it's one less villain for 𝗵/N to deal with. "Don't you dare touch 𝗵/N, you stupid villain," I yelled out as I got ready, but then Tamaru's hand appeared out of nowhere and it was going to touch my face. I doomed myself. I inched closer and closer to Tamaru as he laughed like a maniac until a bullet hit his hand. I landed on the ground and looked up to see that the backup has arrived together with Ida. He did it. Oh God, I have never been happier in my whole life. I watched as 𝗵/N's clones disappeared, making all of the villains look up at the real pros in fear. I then watched as Tamaru backed up, getting shot here and there, but then Kurogiri shielded him and warped him away from the battlefield, meaning he surrenders. We won. And it was all thanks to 𝗵/N for her crazy powers and Ida for getting backup. I looked up at 𝗵/N to see that she had tears flowing down her face. "I'm so happy," she said as she closed her eyes and her hair turned back to its original color. She then began to fall back, but luckily All Might caught her. Tears began to come up in my eyes as I looked at All Might. I felt ashamed because I couldn't help him at all. Some successor I turned out to be 𝗧𝗵𝗲. "I'm sorry I failed to help you," I told him as I looked down in shame. "That is absolutely not true," he said, making me look up at him in shock. Half of his body was in weak form while the other was not. "You bought me a few vital seconds and you helped keep 𝗵/N safe, something not even I couldn't do. So you were a big help and I thank you for that. You saved me once again," he said, making cry again. Geez, I really do have to keep these tears under control. Thank you all might, I said, letting out a sob. I'm just so glad that you're both okay, I said. He smiled at me and nodded. Midoriya hey. I looked to my left to see 𝗳𝗪𝗎𝗀 making his way towards me. 𝗕𝗵𝗲, if he comes here he'll see All Might in his weak form. 𝗳𝗪𝗎𝗀 wait. I yelled, but before I can say anything a wall appeared. I looked the other way to see that it was a pro hero's doing. Oh, thank goodness. I looked at All Might to see that he was relieved too. He then looked at 𝗵𝗃 who was unconscious on his lap. I crawled a bit closer to him and combed some of her hair back that was stuck to her dirty yet appealing face. I wonder if she'll remember all of this, I said, looking at her with worry. It's possible, All Might said, making me a bit less worried. Thank you, 𝗵𝗃𝗲. You saved my butt. All Might thanked the pro hero who was standing behind him. My pleasure. I'm actually a big fan of yours. The pro hero said, making All Might chuckle. You sure did a number in here, huh? 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said. Actually, this wasn't my doing. It was this young lady's. All Might said, pointing to 𝗵𝗃. You're kidding, right? 𝗵𝗃𝗲 asked. While I was watching 𝗵𝗃 fight, I actually caught a few security cameras around the dome. Maybe there are some that still work, and you can show the faculties at school what she did. I suggested. You're right. I'll ask 𝗕𝗏 to let me see them at some point this week. All Might said. Anyway, we need to find a way to sneak you out of here and get you 3 to the nurse's office. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said, and we just nodded. Time skip. I was laying in a hospital bed near the windows. All Might was in the bed next to mine and 𝗵𝗃 was on the one in front of me. Recovery girl said that she would be fine, but that she might be in a 1-week coma, depends on how fast she recovers. She lost a lot of BLD for almost passing her limits. All Might is okay, which is good, and he's awake as well. I only had broken legs and a broken finger. So pretty much 𝗵𝗃 was the most injured. Well, I guess I won't scold you for Midoriya being back here. That wasn't your fault. I will have to scold that girl for almost going over her limits though. Recovery girl said. They'll speak to her about that when she awakens. But that aside, I think I shortened my time again with that fight. I went past my limits as well. All Might said, making me gasp. But anyway, I hope I can at least hold my strong form for an hour. All Might finished saying. I'm so sorry, I said, looking at him with worried eyes. Welp, no use worrying. These things happen. All Might said as he sat up. I still blame myself for not helping them more though. My thoughts were interrupted as a man in a cream-colored jacket and cream-colored fedora came in. Excuse me. Hi, All Might. 𝗵𝗃𝗲. The man said. What the hell? I didn't know that you were investigating. All Might said as some BLD came out his mouth. All Might. It's okay for him to see you like this. I asked, concerned. Oh yeah, it's fine. This guy's alright. All Might said, and I nodded. His name is 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗁 𝗔𝗂𝗁𝗵. My best friend on the police force. He's legit, I trust him. All Might explained. Oh cool. I said with a smile. That's quit an introduction. Sorry to cut to the chase, but we could really use some of the information you might have. 𝗔𝗂𝗁𝗵 said. Hold on, before all that, please tell me all of the students are okay. And Eraserhead and 𝗕𝗏. All Might asked, and that got me interested. Not counting this boy and the girl over there, only a few students had light injuries, and the 2 teachers are in stable condition for now. He explained, which made All Might and I let out a relieved sigh. That's good to hear. All Might said. If you 3 heroes plus that girl hadn't risked your lives, then the other students wouldn't have survived. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁 said with a bright smile. You're not seeing the whole picture here, 𝗧𝗂𝗁𝗃. The students also fought and risked their lives, especially that young lady laying right in front of us. All Might said as we all looked at 𝗵𝗃𝗁. She looked appealing as the sunset lights hit her face and the breeze blew her hair softly. God, I wish I can just get up from this bed and kiss her. Thank you, All Might. I said, shaking those previous thoughts out of my head. You know, before she fainted she said that she was happy, I said, smiling. I'm glad, All Might said. 𝗧𝗂𝗁𝗃 looked confused, so All Might told him he would explain some other time. I don't think there has ever been a group of first years who experienced a real fight like this so early in their training and not only survived, They learned what it means to be a pro. Those villains made a mistake in attacking them. This class is strong and filled with courage. Mark my words, they'll become great heroes. All Might said, finishing his speech. He was right. I was going to work harder than ever now to raise to the very top together with 𝗵𝗃. It is our promise after all. I looked at All Might and he smiled and gave me a thumbs up as I nodded and looked outside. We had no way of knowing, but the League of Villains pack in the USJ, the dome, was just the beginning. A bigger incident was on the horizon. We were all just happy to be alive. To have shown that we had the potential to be real heroes. But the worst was yet to come. I woke up and felt a soft breeze blow on my face along with light of the sun hitting me. I looked around to see I was in the nurse's office. At first I was confused as to how I got here, but then everything came crashing down on me like a meteor. I remember watching All Might die. I watched my friends die. Most painful of all, I watched my best friend and first love die too. Oh God, I whispered as tears fell down my face. I was about to get up when I all of a sudden got a flashback. I reversed time, saved everyone, help arrived and no one died. I'm so happy, I said, and then I fainted and fell into a deep slumber. When the flashback was over, I just stared at the white wall in front of me. They're alive. I whispered again as I looked down at my lap and more tears appeared. 𝗵𝗃, someone said from the door. That voice, I can't believe that I was never going to hear that voice again. I slowly looked up as a small smile formed on my lips. Izuku, I said as I stared at my best friend. As tears streamed down his face, he ran towards me and then hugged me, and of course I hugged him back. I was so scared I thought I lost you, he said as he looked up from the hug and kissed me. God, I missed this. He kissed me with so much love that I needed. I never want to let this boy go. He pulled away and then put his forehead on mine as he grabbed my hand. Oh 𝗵𝗃, it's nice to see you're awake. I heard All Might say from the doorway, making me look behind Izuku. All Might, are you okay? I said as I remembered how injured he was during the battle. I'm fine. The teachers and the students are okay as well. He said, grabbing a chair and sitting near my bed. Izuku was sitting on the bed with me, still holding my hand. Thank goodness. How long have I been out for? I asked him, looking at the clock to see it was 4 in the afternoon, meaning class ended a while ago. You've been out for 2 days, Izuku said, frowning. 2 days. I yelled, but that just gave me a headache. Relax, 𝗵𝗃. All that matters is that you saved many lives and that you're okay. All Might said, making me relax a bit and put my head on Izuku's shoulder. Now that you're awake, there's a few things we need to discuss about. All Might said as I listened closely. All of the villains around the world know about you, so we need to start training you and the rest of the students more, especially now that the sports festival is near. He said. The villain thing scared me, but then I got excited when he mentioned the sports festival. Now since you're okay and your injuries are healed, you come back to school tomorrow. Izuku and I will take you home now, so go change. He said. I nodded. When I got up, it took me a while to get the hang of walking again, so Izuku grabbed my hand and led me to the bathroom. I mumbled a quick thank you and then closed the door. Once I was done changing into some leggings and my 𝗵𝗃 hoodie, I put on my black Vans and tied my hair in a messy bun. We got out and Izuku decided to take me to eat at McDonald's because 1, I was hungry and my parents weren't home apparently. After we ate, Izuku stayed at my place and we watched a movie together until he had to go. On the next day I got ready for school and walked hand in hand with Izuku. Today was a normal day, besides the fact that during break Izuku and I finally made the announcement that we were a couple. Everyone was happy except Bakugo, who didn't seem to understand what I saw in Izuku. All I did was smack him in the head and everyone laughed. Everyone asked how I was feeling and some even commented on how cool I was during the battle. They even showed me the video that they got from the cameras inside the dome, and honestly I was amazed with myself, except it didn't show when I reversed time. It just showed what happened after I reversed it. Anyway, today was a normal day. I wonder what we're doing tomorrow. Question asked by 𝗬𝗏. What was your first impression on My Hero Academia? Or to each character? Honestly, I thought it was going to be boring and stupid until some of my school friends insisted that I watch it. So I did. And I loved it. I fell in love with each character, especially Izuku, not only because he is the main character but because he has such a big heart and he is downright adorable as Question asked by 𝗵𝗃𝗃 Can you or do you have a calendar of release days of chapters? I unfortunately don't have a calendar of release days, but I am beginning to make one. I'm thinking about updating this book every week on Fridays or every 2 weeks on Fridays. I'm not sure, but I do know that it will be on Fridays, so yeah. Question asked by many people: how does the readers use Quirk work? Okay, so many of my friends at school read this book and they asked me this, and someone else asked me this too, and I thought that I should just clarify this. So how does your Quirk work? Well, let me explain. First of all, you can only use 2-3 quirks at the same time depending on which one it is and how powerful that quirk is. For example, 1 for all is a very powerful quirk, so if you use it, that is the only quirk you can use and no more because of how powerful it is. So if you pass your limit, then you will die. You see, inside you there is a power ball. It's pretty much your soul, but it glows and it comes with a color. Everyone with a quirk has one except the normal quirkless people. They just have a normal blue soul, totally not talking about Soul Eater here. Wink wink. Some people's power ball is either small or big depending on how powerful their quirk is. For example, All Might's power ball is big and gold. Now your power ball is huge. Way to huge. And the color is swell, it's every color. So a rainbow. But anyway, that is why if you pass your limits, that power ball will explode and you will turn to dust because it's way too big. Also, your powers can be taken out of you. That's why All Might and some people tell you to not use your quirk outside of you. Because then the villains will go after you. But obviously the villains know about you, so your confused face. Now I know I don't show you training in any of the chapters, but you do train and practice. It's just that I'm too lazy to feature it and I wouldn't know what to write anyway, so yeah. I was walking to school with Izuku and Uraraka today. Yesterday Mr. Izuku told us that we would be doing something special today, but he didn't tell us what. That got everyone excited and anxious. Now we were sitting in class waiting for the arrival of our teacher. Izuku then enters the room a few seconds after the bell rang. Good morning, class. As you might remember, yesterday I mentioned that we would be doing something sorta special. He said as everyone listened carefully. Today we are playing dodgeball. He said. We all smiled, but we weren't really that excited. A normal school game. I heard my netta say, not really. This dodgeball game will be a bit different. Did you forget that this is a superhero school? Asuwa said, and that got us all fired up. Alright, go put on your PE uniforms and meet me in the gym. I walked out with all of the girl in the class and headed towards the girls' locker room. So F/N, has Midoriya taken you out on a date yet? Ashido asked. No, he hasn't. But I bet real soon he will. We've just been busy, that why. I said, finishing putting on my PE uniform and tying my 𝗕𝗫𝗄 up in a ponytail. If you have short hair, then you can leave it down. Mock. I heard Uraraka say. Once we all finished, we all headed out to the gym. When we go there, we saw that the boys were all done changing and were sitting on the floor talking. We joined them until Izuku came in the room. Alright, class. I'm pretty sure you all know how to play dodgeball, right? He asked, and we all nodded. Alright then. Like I said in the classroom, you are allowed to use your quirk. The dodgeballs are made out of a special material so that whatever quirk you use, it doesn't pop or destroy the ball. Don't worry, they are still soft so they won't hurt when you get hit by them. He explained, and we nodded in understanding. I'll be splitting you guys up. Since there are 21 students in this class, one of you will have to sit out for now. I will explain what I mean by that later. So who wants to sit out for a little? Izuku asked. I was about to raise my hand, but Izuku volunteered instead. Alright then. Midoriya will play against the last person standing, so try your best, everyone. You are in this team as well. Team B. Bakuga's in this team, but he didn't fit, so we are all now separated into our groups waiting for Izuku to blow the whistle. Izuku just stood by watching us. What's going on here? All Might asked as he came in. He was in his strong form, but he still has a cast in his arm. Just a little friendly game of Quirk dodgeball. Wanna watch? Izuku asked, and All Might nodded. Izuku raised the whistle to his mouth as my team watched the other team with intense eyes. I looked over at Bakugo, who was on the other team, and he was looking right at me. This is going to be harder than I thought, I said in my head. But then I remembered one of my powers that I learned how to do during some of my trainings. I began to float a bit off the ground, and when 𝗬𝗏 blew the whistle I lifted my hands slowly and all of the dodgeball began to float. Everyone's eyes got wide, including Izuku's and Izuku's and All Might's. I flew up high, leveling myself with the dodgeballs and smirked. I then yelled, "Meteor shower." As soon as I yelled that I lowered my hands and all of the ball went flying down on the other team. 𝗕𝗁𝘁𝗵𝗆, I heard someone yell. That someone was 𝗬𝗏, who I managed to hit and get out. I watched as a ball hit 𝗕𝗁𝘁𝗵𝗀𝗀, which makes 3 outs now. Shoji was about to catch it, but he let the ball fall, which means he is out, and that's 4. Now the only ones in are Ishido, Aoyama, Ojiro, Sato, Tokoyami, and unfortunately Deku. I quickly flew down and landed and got a few high fives from my team members and a thumbs up from All Might, Izuku, and Izuku. We all looked to the other team and saw that they picked up the ball already. Everything then happened really fast. Ishido threw her ball along with some acid towards us. The acid landed next to Mineta, causing him to stop from dodging, and the ball then hit him. Bakugo exploded 2 ball over here, which was way too fast for anyone to dodge. That ended up hitting Kaminari and Ijiro. Everyone else threw the rest of the ball but missed. Okay, so now my team has 6 people and with me it's 7. The other team has 6 people. I grabbed the ball and ended up getting Aoyama out. I didn't need to use a quirk on that because he was distracted with something. Few intense minutes passed by and now the only ones left on the other team was Bakugo. On my team Todoroki and I were left. 𝗵/I'm gonna need you to fly. Take a ball with you. Todoroki ordered me in a low voice. I flew up and levitated 3 ball with me, then looked at Bakugo. As soon as Todoroki froze the floor, avoiding Izuku and the rest, Bakugo exploded a ball at Todoroki but got himself caught in the ice. Todoroki got out. I took this as a signal to throw the ball at Bakugo, so I did and ended up hitting him twice before he got himself out of the ice he was trapped in. Todoroki unfroze the ground and I landed slowly while everyone that got out in my team cheered and came to high-five me. "Midoriya, you're up," Izuku said while everyone else went to the side and sat down to watch us. "This should be interesting," All Might said, and Izuku agreed with him. "Honestly, are they together or not? 'Cause they look like they are." I looked back at Izuku to see him staring intensely at me, making me blush. "Don't go easy on me, okay, babe?" I said, smirking. "Oh, don't worry. I'm giving you all I've got," he said, smirking as well. Once Izuku blew the whistle, Izuku jumped towards the ball and grabbed 2, then he jumped up and threw them at me at full speed. I luckily dodged it and grabbed a ball that was next to me and used my explosion quirk to throw it at him. I was close to hitting him, but he dodged it. I kept grabbing the ball around me and throwing it at him with every quirk I got, but he just kept dodging. "Can't catch me," he said while he laughed and took his tongue out at me. I was getting mad until I looked at the ball behind him and then at Izuku and had an idea all of a sudden. I smirked and Izuku gave me a confused look. I closed my eyes and focused. I felt my hair began to flow and wind surround me. Then I opened my eyes and they turned red. I lifted my hands and all of the ball lifted off the ground. I saw Izuku prepare to jump away, but my smirk got even bigger when he couldn't do it. I took his quirk away. That's right, I'm using the same quirk as Izuku's, but since I'm using this with my levitation quirk, I need to be quick before my time is up. "Hey babe," I yelled and gave him a sweet smile when he looked at me. "Love you," I said, and dropped my hands as all of the ball flew down on him and hit him, declaring me the winner. I closed my eyes as they went back to normal. When I opened them, I looked towards Izuku to see him with wide eyes. "When did you learn to do that?" he asked as him and everyone else walked towards me. I just shrugged and walked towards Izuku, who was standing next to All Might. "Are you okay?" I asked him. He nodded and kissed me, then pulled away. "Good job, babe," he said, and smiled at him and hugged him. After that, we all went back to the classroom and did normal school stuff and some hero stuff and then packed up to go home. Today was a fun day.